Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have roll call, please.
Commissioner Robbins?
Here.
Commissioner Rushton?
Present.
Chairman Bunnick?
Here.
Commissioner Wessel?
Here.
Commissioner Solis Little?
Here.
Commissioner Algar?
Here.
Commissioner Lautner? Present.
Yes, and then for our opening prayer, we have Kathleen Moyer from the First Church of Christ, Glen Arbor.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
As mentioned, my name is Kathleen, and I'm here representing the Christian Science Church in Glen Arbor. I'm so pleased to be with you all. I thought I would share a type of prayer that I really love, a hymn of prayer and praise. So this is coming from the Bible initially, and then I'm going to share another little hymn or prayer as well. So this is from Psalms. I will extol thee, my God, O King, and I will bless thy name forever and ever. Every day I will bless thee, and I will praise thy name forever and ever. Great is the Lord, and greatly to be praised, and his greatness is unsearchable. One generation shall praise thy works to another, and shall declare thy mighty acts. I will speak of the glorious honor of thy majesty and of thy wondrous works. All thy works shall praise thee, O Lord, and thy saints shall bless thee. They shall speak of the glory of thy kingdom, and they shall talk of thy power, to make known to the sons of men his mighty acts and the glorious majesty of his kingdom. Thy kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and thy dominion endureth throughout all generations. The Lord upholdeth all that fall, and raiseth up all those that are bowed down. The Lord openeth the eyes of the blind. The Lord raiseth them that are bowed down. The Lord loveth the righteous. The Lord preserveth the strangers. He relieveth the fatherless and the widow. The Lord shall reign forever, even thy God, O Zion, unto all generations. Praise ye the Lord. And another hymn or poem of praise. When my heart is lost in sorrow and light seems far and dim, there's a tender prayer I can always pray, simply praising him. Praise the Creator. Let all within me sing, for that's what I am made to do, and comfort it will bring. When weariness engulfs me, discouragement sinks in, there's a hopeful prayer I can always pray, simply praising him. Praise the Creator. Let all within me sing, for that is what I'm made to do, and courage it will bring. When my days feel much too busy to find where prayer fits in, there's a timeless prayer I can always pray, simply praising him. Praise the Creator. Let all within me sing, for that's what I am made to do, and stillness it will bring. When earth seems satisfying and my joy filled to the brim, there's still a prayer I need to pray, simply praising him. Praise the Creator. Let all within me sing, for that is what I'm made to do, and goodness it will bring. For that is what we are made to do. Let all the earth now sing. Amen. Have a wonderful meeting. Thank you so much.
All right, next we have approval of the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0. So then now we bring us to public comment. Is there any public comment? Please come forward.
Hi, thank you for having me. My name is Barb Conley. I'm from Northport. I'm a physician. I'm on the health board. And I come to you today just to talk a little bit about the Delta variant. And it's important that we avoid the disruptions that we had last year to schools and businesses and those kinds of things. And this Delta variant is a thing apart. It hasn't been seen before in influenza and those kinds of things. Very efficient at infecting people, whereas the original one would infect me. If somebody was infected, they can infect 2.5 other people. This one, you can infect 5 other people. In addition, although it's not that likely, even if you're vaccinated, you can get infected. And if so, you can pass it on whether or not you have symptoms. So my request to this board is to do everything you can to try and get people vaccinated, and also to protect people who are less vulnerable, who are more vulnerable than those who are vaccinated. Those who are vaccinated, they're infected, they're unlikely to get really, really sick. But people who have cancers, people who have immune problems, people who are children under 12 are in danger from this virus. So I ask you to support protecting our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Please come forward.
Good morning, Commissioners. I hope that your public comment today is all kind and we're following the sheriff's advice of being nice to each other. I have some really good news. Senator Vanderwall has just been given an award for his support of ACEs. And I happen to be on this board, Northwest Community Action Agency. And I'm really hoping that as commissioners, you also do a little research about ACEs, adverse childhood experiences and the effects it has on health. So Senator Vanderwall got this award specifically for his willingness to propose the resolution to declare adverse childhood experiences, ACEs, as a critical health issue, and for shepherding this to be passed by the Senate and signed by the governor. We support all efforts to pass this. We know that you strive to work in bipartisan fashion for your constituents, particularly those who are vulnerable. We will be in touch with your staff to make the final arrangements. The mission of Northwest Michigan Community Action Agency is to strengthen and inspire community action agencies to champion solutions for poverty and improve economic opportunity. Also, I was looking up something about the job of commissioners through Michigan State, and one of that was to bring things to Lansing that would help our county. So I'm hoping this might be something that you would be thinking about doing, is what actions you might want to be bringing to Senator Vanderwall, our Representative Jack O'Malley, that would actually help the citizens in Leelanau County. It's also the anniversary, unfortunately, of the Eckerly event. And I want to thank you for passing the anti-racist resolution. And I hope that you consider continuing with that work to help all of the people in our county. Thank you and good morning. Hope you have a good day.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to our agenda. And at this point, we have the communications proclamation presentation, and the first one up is early childhood update. Administrator's update will be next week.
Morning, everybody. So I'm really excited to be here and give you guys an update on this early childhood.
Announce yourself.
I'm so sorry. I'm Michelle Klein, so I'm the Director of Personal Health at the Benzie Leelanau Health Department. And I'm really excited to be able to give you all an update on what we're doing with the early childhood millage. As you all know, it didn't start out the way we anticipated because of all the COVID restrictions. And while we're still in the throes, we've finally been able to do some in-person events and connect with more families. So this is an update, so you know where we're at now and what we're thinking for the next few months. And then we'll be coming back later with a more solid, detailed plan for 2022. Okay, so you probably got a little PowerPoint, so you got that. Perfect. Just as a reminder, so Parenting Communities is the name that all of the work that we're doing with the early childhood is under. So if you hear Parenting Communities of Leelanau County, that's what this is. That's everything that's encompassed in this early childhood millage work. And you can switch slides. Next slide. Next slide. Who's switching the slides? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So just as a reminder, our vision is thriving children and families in Leelanau County. And our mission is a comprehensive, responsive system of opportunities accessible for all families and children from pregnancy through age 6. And what's so unique about this and beautiful is that we can truly create something that meets the needs of our community members. There is no restrictions. You just have to live in Leelanau County and be within that age range. Next slide. So last spring, we did a survey, a community survey, and this was just to give us an initial sense of what our families needed right now. And so I've got a few slides here that show the results. So the first one was one of the questions about what opportunities they're looking for their families. As you can see, playgroups was one of the top ones. We started those in the middle of June. Home visiting was another one. We were doing those before, and we've continued and have increased our home visiting capacity. The other was monthly family community nights. That was a big ask. And so we have our first one tomorrow night. In fact, at Hermann Park, we're having Marion Pico, she's a musician, does a lot of interactive work with little kids. So she will be there, and we're hoping to have a lot of people come. So this is the results of the opportunities. And then the next slide was asking what educational interests that they had. And you can see that there is some great interest in things like discipline, managing behavior problems, learning through play, and dealing with parental stress. And so this helps guide us when maybe even what we present at playgroups and talk to families about at playgroups. And we'll also be creating some more formal opportunities, bringing in some speakers for families and things like that to help identify what the questions are and answer their questions about behavior and discipline and all of the others, nutrition and things like that. Also, our home visits that we do are very much geared towards this. We do a lot of education about nutrition, a lot of education and support for families when they're helping or when they're trying to manage children's difficult behaviors. So we are on track with that. The next page or the next slide is concrete needs. And this is just a snapshot. We know this was a small sampling of our constituents this time. We're hoping to have more the next time. But this just gives you a little bit of an idea of some of the needs that our families have expressed. And we have mechanisms in place for most of these, in fact, through the health department and through community connections, linking families with different resources. So if you all come across any families that do have needs, make sure they give us a call and we'll make sure that they're connected. So our plan for the surveys is to do another one in the early fall, probably September, and hopefully we'll get even more response since we're connected with more families, and that will help inform us about what we want to do for next year as we're creating a work plan for 2022. So the next slide is a couple of our flyers. The first one is for the play groups. As we saw, that was one of the big wishes for our families. We have 5 play groups a week spread throughout the county. And, every week those numbers just are growing exponentially as the word gets out, and the families seem to really enjoy it. And we have wonderful staff facilitating those groups. So, and then the one next to that is the flyer for tomorrow night for the Marion Pico event at Hermann Park. And we have goodies for everybody, and we'll be doing a little bit of raffling, and I think it's going to be nice weather too, so I hear. Okay, and next page is a Mom Power flyer. So Mom Power will be starting in September, and this is a very intensive but impactful opportunity for moms who have any kind of struggles with being the parent that they want to be. It's about self-care for the mom, identifying what their experiences have brought to the way they parent their kids. And so it really, in the end, it helps make the moms stronger parents, the kids and the moms have a better attachment. The moms understand their kids a little bit more. And it's really, it's evidence-based. I can't even tell you the families we've worked with in the past through this program. It's just incredible, the stories that they connect with each other, and it's facilitated by a social worker. And so, you know, it brings out things from their past they may not have been aware of that are affecting the decisions and the way they live their lives now. So it's a really powerful tool that we have. And it also is a way for us to connect with these parents, and after Mom Power is done, we can continue doing home visits. They can have play groups with each other, so they have their own social network. So this starts mid-September. We're recruiting families right now. So if you know any families, again, or any moms that may be interested, they can give us a call. We also are really looking for people to help us with the child care team. So the way this works, the moms bring their kids, they spend some time together in the beginning, and then the moms go in one room, the kids go in another room. So we want volunteers to help, you know, take care of those kids for us. So if you know anyone who's got a heart for children and wants to spend a couple of hours every Wednesday for 10 weeks, just send them our way. Okay, and then the next slide. These are some of our numbers as of now. So I had mentioned we started our play groups June 14th. So from June 14th to July 30th, we had 123 kids and 57 families participate. I think that's tremendous considering we started with 0. So we're now doing home visits for 18 families. In April, we were seeing 9, so those numbers are also increasing. And we have monthly newsletters, and we have 95 households currently subscribed that are getting these monthly newsletters. And that also tends to grow every month. So we're on track. The next slide are some of the other activities we're doing. So evaluation, we know, is a big component. This is unique, this early childhood millage, as you know from our initial discussions about this. And so we're being looked at, you know, statewide. This is very innovative what we're doing. And so we want to make sure we are really we have a pretty robust evaluation in place. And so we have partnered with Woody Smith. Some of you may know him. He's from Avenue ISR, but he's done a lot of work with many agencies in Northern Michigan, specifically early childhood related. So he's very knowledgeable about the area. So he's going to be helping us do more of an impact assessment so that, you know, in a few years, we'll be able to have some data related to the return on investment. So we know that we're making an impact and what exactly that impact translates to in dollars. And then a web page. So we currently have a parenting communities page on the health department's website. We've started some work with the county that's a little more challenging than we were hoping it would be. So we're still working towards that. So we have information on the county website as well. And social media, we do have active Facebook and Instagram. Our monthly newsletters, as I mentioned, you all can go to the website and subscribe. You just plug in your email and then you'll get them every month. And there's always good information as well as a calendar of events. Mental health, I was thrilled to see ACEs. We have a mental health work group that started meeting. And one of the areas, you know, we've really talked about is how do we create a community that is just more supportive of the mental health needs of our neighbors and our friends and our customers. And so, and ACEs is a big part of that. And at one time there was a great initiative with resiliency and trauma-informed care and ACEs, and then COVID hit and we kind of lost our momentum. So we want to get that back. But we're also looking at other opportunities for mental health, truly identifying what the barriers are in our county for our community members and what we can do to help meet those needs. So, and then the last thing on the current opportunities is formalizing a process for, you know, funding opportunities as they come up. So we've had organizations that, you know, may reach out and say, hey, we'd love to do this in Leelanau County. So how do we bring them in, make sure they fit the vision and mission, and that we're being responsible with the tax dollars. And also unmet health needs. Oral health is one of the big ones that there are a lot of unmet needs because of finances. So how can we help those families as well? So our plan, the next slide, is that we'd like to in November be able to come back here and give you a detailed plan for 2023 along with a detailed budget. And that plan will be based on information that we get from our Parenting Communities Advisory Committee, which is a group of stakeholders all involved in early childhood that touch our families here in Leelanau County. The community surveys, as I mentioned, a lot of feedback from schools, from parents and play groups, from everybody we can get feedback from on what they're looking for and what they need and what will help strengthen our families. So we'll put together that plan and bring it to you all for approval. Our preliminary budget, as a health department, our budget year starts October 1st. So I've had to put together some preliminary budgets, but we're looking at about $708,000, I think, for next year. And that would be increasing our current staffing by another community health worker and a little bit more social work time. And supplies for all our activities, evaluation, training, and then another Manpower group potentially, and an unmet needs fund. So on the following page, there is all of our contact information. And are there any questions I can answer for you?
In the latest kids count report, we look pretty good as a county, but one of the areas that we talked a little bit about here was the percentage of moms, pregnant moms without adequate health care. Was your moms group addressing that? Smoking cessation, all of those kinds of things?
Yes, all of those. So part of what is integrated in everything we do is a lot of education about health. So when we're connecting with pregnant women or postpartum women, we're always talking about smoking, secondhand smoke, thirdhand smoke, and what we can do to support them. And in fact, we did have at one time a really robust pregnancy perinatal smoking group that we are rejuvenating in the next 2 weeks. That was on hiatus because of COVID too. So absolutely. Yeah, pregnancy and nutrition and prenatal care as well. We want to connect with as many women as we can when they're pregnant, ideally, because then we already have that established relationship and we can make sure they are getting linked up with prenatal care. Yeah.
Follow-up question, I assume that there's more prenatal care available than is being used, and part of it is communicating and referring. There
are a few barriers. So some of it is understanding, and some, quite honestly, I'm a newly pregnant mom and I call my doctor, I call an OB, and they said, okay, we'll see you in your 12 weeks. Here's some vitamins. Or they don't think about it. You don't even think about calling your doctor until you're further down the road in your pregnancy. And that's really what we want to make sure is women are getting prenatal care and they're getting those prenatal vitamins right from the very beginning, even before they're pregnant, ideally, if they're trying. Yeah.
Did you have a question? Yeah, what kind of, would you explain the unmet needs a little bit?
Yeah, that's a little, we have requests fairly frequently from families that are struggling. As I said, dental health is one of them. You might have a mom who has some pretty major dental issues going on and just can't afford it. Or mental health, and they can't afford the co-pays for mental health. And so it's really, helping to put together, if somebody needs some kind of health care, they can't get it because there's a financial barrier. We put our heads together and look at all the different resources in the community. And this can be one. It wouldn't be the only one or the first one even, but there's always, we've looked at Father Fred and we've gone to LCN, and oftentimes it's a patchwork. We have different resources that will, this one will pay $100, that one has $50. And so we try to help advocate for these families and help them connect with all those resources so that they get all their health needs met.
Commissioner Solislo.
Well, thank you for the report. I am absolutely thrilled to see the way you are implementing this program and the breadth of which you're integrating all of the available services in health, social health, everything possible, and the input you're seeking from our community. The growth since you just got started in June is fantastic.
Yeah.
So it's going to be really exciting to see by the end of the year how that continues, and I know it will.
Yes.
So
let's hope, as long as COVID will not take over our lives. Yes, that's our hope.
But there's a lot of discussion in the community, in the early childhood groups, and people are excited about what you're doing. So thank you very much for just really delivering on
Thank
what
you
we
for
were
that.
hoping.
We have this phenomenal team of women, our community health workers and social workers and lactation consultants and nurses that are so passionate about this and are so excited to finally be able to jump in and do this work. So, yeah.
Yeah. I was wondering, what are you doing about dads? I noticed there's no men involved.
Yes,
No dads
we have
that
had
do-
lots of discussions about dad. There's two things right now we'd really like to do. We want to implement a dad's play group for the dads and the fathers and kids. And we also, there's something similar to Mom Power that's called Fraternity of Fathers. That's dad oriented. Our struggle that we have, our next big task is we want to find some men to lead those. So that's not as easy to find in our community. And so again, I would tell you, we have ideas, we need the men.
So what type of target families are you targeting? Or is it any family?
Any family. Yeah. Any family.
I mean-
When you mean specifically for a dad's group? or
No,
in
just
general?
overall.
So overall, I mean, really, every opportunity we have is open to every family, anybody who needs it. So there are specific things that we may do, something like a play group is for anybody. Home visits really could be for anybody because it just depends on what you as an individual family needs. So there may be something, Mom Power tends to be more focused on parents that have, that are just really struggling with parenting for a variety of reasons. It could be something as severe as substance use, or it could be, simply mom has a lot of stress and her stress is coming out in her ability to be patient with her children. So, but overall, we want to welcome everybody, and we want everybody in this community to feel like they're a part of parenting communities because they're a parent.
So are you struggling to get the message out? Because I talked to a family, they had 4 children under 700, and they had never heard of the early childhood.
Yes, this is always the big a challenge. And I'm not going to say we're struggling because every day it grows and it's a lot of word of mouth. We're putting ads in the paper every week. We have our social media. We have just these cutest little kid t-shirts that just came in today for our event tomorrow that we're going to hand out that will say parenting community. So we're trying to create a brand essentially. And the more we can get the word out, the more people will know. And our ultimate vision is that every family in Leelanau County with young kids, or every mom when she gets pregnant, will know, parenting communities, I need to get connected, because that's just what we do in Leelanau County. That's the support for families. So we are always open to ideas. If there are, other opportunities for getting the word out, other things we can do, we're open to that.
I went to an event in Sutton's Bay at Sutton's Bay Library. They had early childhood there that they were doing readings and things for children.
Mm-hmm.
There was also NMCAA, who has the 0 to 5 program.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was the Sutton's Bay School had brought in some young children, and they had 2 teachers who were there at this program at the library, and then 4-H was there as well with young people. But
yeah, I didn't hear about that particular event.
So
Right.
I was surprised. And then here's 4 different programs for early childhood, and they talked about there's no tuition to go to it. They had a $14 million for NMCA.
Is this the early Head Start?
Well,
preschool?
It just said no tuition. And it didn't say Head Start or anything. This was from NMCAA.
NMCAA, yeah.
Yeah, so I just thought, there's a lot going on here for young children,
Mm-hmm.
and yet, we're spending $12,500 per family, according to your numbers. And all of these are like a redundancy of that.
You know what? Actually, we try very, very hard not to be redundant, and we do work with Early Head Start. They have 5 slots for home visiting, and so we're not, we don't want to be redundant. We're filling gaps, which is what we said in the beginning. So I'm not sure the event you were talking about in Sutton's Bay. I'm not sure what that was. It'd be interesting, but we have a lot of partners. NMCAA being one, and we work with Great Start and Early Head Start, and so our goal is not to be redundant. that's not a good use of dollars or time, so.
Right.
Mhm. Right. So, and again, because this is fairly new, so if anybody hears of any events going on that we, want to be at the table of, maybe we've heard about it, maybe we haven't. And as we grow and get our name out there, more people will reach out to us more too. So always, give us a call and say, hey, did you hear about that event at the library? And we'll follow up. Okay.
And I want to piggyback on what Mr. Bunning said, because I see you as a real part of the conversation with all of the groups. I know when Northport School has a meeting about kindergarten or early childhood, you're there. And I know the event you're talking about, and it was specifically to get people enrolled in the Suttons Bay Head Start program, which I know you've been involved in. I know you meet within NCA with that.
Right.
So I'm glad you're not always at all the same events, and I'm glad we spread it around. But I do think we need to understand that our parenting committees group and Michelle and her staff are at the table for a lot of different meetings. With Community Foundation met in over the summer. Michelle was there, and Lisa was there, and so you're there behind the scenes sometimes.
Right. Oh yeah. Right. Yeah. We, in collaboration with our community partners is just important and always has been. It's just always what we've done.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Okay.
Very nice.
All right. Have a good day.
All right, so then that brings up Michigan State, the extension office update.
Good morning, commissioners. Laura, is he going to pull it up? Okay. Just a quick introduction. Again, my name is Jennifer Berkey. I work for Michigan State University Extension, and I wanted to do a quick sound check. All Michigan State University employees right now are being asked to wear masks in inside spaces, regardless of vaccination status. So if for some reason you can't hear me well enough right now, I will remove it for accessibility reasons. And is my sound check okay, or would you like me to take it off?
So far, so good.
Okay, well, Commissioner Lautner, if at any time you feel like you can't hear me, I'd rather have you hear my words at this point, and so I would be glad to take that off. So, thank you. So Ron's queuing up my presentation. So Ron, if you just click present, that would be great. Okay. Technology is working today. That's always a positive. So again, I always look forward to each time this year presenting our annual report on behalf of Michigan State University Extension. You have a copy of our written report. And again, I want to recognize and thank all of the staff because I'm merely here presenting on their behalf, and it's their hard work over the last year that's the culmination of this report. And I'm not going to go obviously page by page, as you've had an opportunity to take a deep dive in it if you wish, but I'm merely going to present highlights or some of our most things we're proud of, especially over the last year. So again, just always like to remind the board about the leverage and how we're currently funded as an organization. We have several pots of money that fund us on a statewide level. Obviously, our county partnership is one of our important funding sources. We're also funded from state, federal, and grant funding being our current largest source of funding currently. And again, like I said, we appreciate the support of the county, which allows us to do our work directly here in Leelanau County. Next slide, please, Ron. And again, as we've probably heard from multiple community partners, last year was an interesting year for us to do some pivots and redesigning our educational work in Leelanau County with the stay-at-home order and subsequent limits on gatherings. And our extension staff pivoted, and we have been reaching out to residents in many new ways. We've done podcasts, we've done Desire to Learn or online courses, we've obviously done Zoom meetings, we've obviously done Google Meets as well. So our staff truly pivoted and provided our educational offerings in new ways. I can tell you it's been interesting to look at the data in order to present this presentation, but one of the interesting outputs of this activity was that your Leelanau County residents could access any program at any time online. A lot of them were recorded and saved for later, or if they access them live as well. So as a result of that, residents accessed 97 unique programs this year, which looked like a program every 3 days, if you will, being offered in Leelanau County. We reached around 1,800 or so in direct programming. And then we also did a bulk of our education online, and it was around 2,700 residents. I also wanted to give a special shout out to our social media reach. What that number reflects is the number of unique page views on our Facebook pages. And I want to really give credit where credit's due on this one. I want to thank Rosalie. Rosalie did the bulk of our social media efforts on behalf of 4-H. I'm certain you saw the ones that she shared on Overheard in Leelanau. And what that looks like is 106,000 unique page views. So if I went to the same page twice, it would only be counted once. But every single time I went to something that Rosalie shared, it became a unique page view. So I recognize you don't have 106,000 residents in Leelanau County, but what that looks like is the residents deeply appreciated Rosalie's shared efforts and accessed all of the different programs she shared to learn more about them. So again, I wanted to say that that is the highest of any county in my district. So again, just a special shout out to Rosalie on that. Next slide, please. And obviously, you know Rosalie and her efforts within 4-H, and we continue to focus on building life skills, preparing your youth for the workforce, and developing their budding leadership skills. And again, this is just a reminder of why 4-H is important and the impacts on our youth for helping them set up the road for success. Next slide, please, Ron. And I always believe pictures tell 1,000 words from the standpoint of what was the breadth and scope of the efforts that we did on behalf of Leelanau residents this last year. Rosalie offered very creative programming all year during our stay-at-home order and under our state of Michigan restrictions. She offered a myriad of programs, and many thanks to her efforts, they were all equally creative, and we were able to even offer some in a hybrid mode. As example, her tractor safety, which is definitely a cornerstone of a program that we have in Leelanau County specifically for their residents, which allows the youth to get their tractor safety certification. And she was super creative and figure out in a way to be able to accommodate current state of Michigan guidelines plus our own Michigan State University. So we were very excited to be able to offer that this summer. You can also see a myriad of programs thanks to her efforts, such as a book drive, art and soul sketchbook, beekeeping. We were still able to do our babysitting training in a kit form, as well as embryology programs. Next slide, please. Actually, I'm sorry, Ron, can you go back? I have one more thing I want to add on that. I'm so sorry. It's easier when I control it myself because then it's linked to my brain. So thanks for your patience. So our fair last year, I know we're currently in the throes of actual in-person fair, which we're very excited about. But last year we did host a virtual fair, and what that looked like is youth would be able to compete online and show their animals as well as auction them off. And so again, another huge pivot for our staff, and I'm super proud to report that all sales were comparable to previous years as well, which shows that the Leelanau residents and our community really rallied around our youth, so they did have comparable sales. And Leelanau youth did run away with some of the high ribbons. There were 7 were grand and reserve champions with their animal projects. So the kids also dug deep and did something different and learned some new skills and continued to excel the way that they normally do. And again, as I mentioned, Rosalie's currently at the fair this week, so I think she's enjoying our annual report today to be in some air condition, and I know she's going to head back out to the fair for the rest of the week. But again, special thanks to her, and some of her recent in-person programming was a library event that I know Commissioner Bunnick was talking about, as well as a sailing event as well. Thanks, Ron, for being flexible. Next slide, please. So again, keeping people healthy is another cornerstone of the work that we do, and we work with adults and youth specifically around healthy eating and increasing physical activity, and we work with many partners to get our efforts done. Next slide, please. Something that was really important to us, and it was a new partnership, was to try to reach some of our pantry residents during the pandemic. They had shifted to a picking up your food kind of and driving by environment, and we weren't able to do some of our typical education and food sampling to teach people how to use that food. And so our staff partnered with Northwest Food Coalition and Farm to Neighbor, and we recorded videos that were shared out over social media, teaching people how to use the locally grown food that they were getting at the pantry. So again, those videos have been shared, and it was wonderful to be able to link those back to the Farm to Neighbor website so that residents could access those and learn how to use those foods. Next slide, please. Caitlin Lawrence, who works out of Benzie County, helps to coordinate some of our Fuel Up to Play 60 projects. And what this does is it allows local schools to apply for grants through the Dairy Council. And so those students and faculty get a chance to implement healthy policy systems and environmental changes at the school. And so through our partnership over the last 5 years, Glen Lake Schools has been the recipient of $13,000 in grant funds, which allowed them to make improvements to their food delivery, as well as the athletic teams received chocolate milk grants to help purchase milk to refuel athletes after games and practices. So again, a special thanks to Caitlin for her leadership from Benzie County and the indirect efforts that Leelanau County is receiving as well. Next slide, please. Obviously, agriculture and supporting our local agriculture community is important. And under Nikki's leadership at the research station here in Leelanau County, again, that was another example of some of the transition we've made to some of our online programming. Nikki and her crew at the research station continue to provide outreach and efforts through Zoom, teaching or sharing information and timely updates with our growers. We provided information as well on integrated pest management and periodic updates during the growing season. I did have some growers did share with me that they appreciated the opportunity to be able to be at their farm in the morning, go ahead and do that update, and then be able to return back to work at their farm site later on. So there was some increased flexibility and appreciation for some of that, but we do recognize we do value our in-person education as well. And so it was a nice way to accommodate that during the time. Next slide, please. And again, I want to do a shout out to Rob and thank him for his continued work with our hops growers. I know he was able to host the final Great Lakes Hop and Barley Conference in Ann Arbor prior to the pandemic, and that was outlined in the report. He also created an online webinar series that was held from March to September to offer for the growers to be able to learn remotely as well. Also, he opened an online course through Desire to Learn called Hop Production in the Midwest and Eastern North America, and that's also open to the public and growers as well. So again, another pandemic silver lining is Rob reported that he was grateful to be able to access some of the leading speakers in the nation because they were able to remote in and teach that way. So again, it was kind of some increased learning opportunities as a result of the pandemic. Next slide, please. We'll continue on with some of our additional work in agriculture, and it would be some of Ishmael's efforts with our wine grape community. I know that he was hired kind of in the middle of the pandemic, and we mentioned to him possibly having him come at another time to give a specific wine grape update, but I know I wanted to thank him for his efforts. He truly jumped right in, you could call it that, in the middle, and he's been working very closely with growers. Growers have reported to me that they appreciate his communication and his deep commitment to learning more about the specific needs for our wine grape community. He's been working on a cold hardiness project to help growers make more effective decisions should we have another substantially cold weather event again like we did a few years ago. He also provided virtual presentations for local growers at the Great Lakes Expo and the Orchard and Vineyard Show as well. Next slide, please. And many thanks also to Dr. Nate Walton. He's obviously coordinates our Extension Master Gardener program to support our local horticulture efforts in Leelanau County. Our Extension Master Gardeners and Nate provide horticulture support and opportunities for residents. I know I enjoyed looking at the garden. I wished it hadn't have been so kind of a little rainy to be able to really walk through it. But again, thanks to those volunteers for helping to coordinate that. We also did about 889 hours this last year, which was about a $25,000 value when you look at the volunteer hour rate. I know with some of our volunteers, some of them decided to kind of stay home, obviously during some of those stay-at-home orders, especially if they were maybe a little bit more cautious about COVID. But a lot of them also were continuing to be able to work in an autonomous environment, and the dedicated volunteers that work outside at the governmental center continue to provide that service. I also want to recognize that historically we do an in-person diagnostic clinic here in Leelanau County, and Nate nicely pivoted that to Zoom, where residents could either share pictures of what was going on or actually call in and talk to people or Zoom in so that they could kind of see what was going on. So again, a special thanks to Nate for his creativity to continue to provide that programming. Next slide, please, Ron. And something new I haven't reported on is that Stan Moore, 2 years ago, he's housed in our Antrim County office. He changed to a farm management educator role, and I just wanted to take just a couple minutes to update you on what that means. His work helps to provide support for farmers to help them identify their financial strengths and weaknesses to help them make better decisions with regards to their farm-based business. He also hosted online telefarm user groups to help them make those taxation decisions as well. So again, this reflects his work in the whole district. It's not just Leelanau County, but I thought it's important for you to know that Stan made this pivot. Previously, he was a dairy educator, and now he's doing this work as well. Next slide, please. I'm sorry, Ron, one more slide. Thank you. And I know each year I always come and share a bit of our product center work, and what this looks like is for Leelanau County residents is they can access support and resources to be able to bring their food-based or agriculture-based business to marketplace. So let's say you had an award-winning idea, you were home during the pandemic, and you perfected a sauce that you feel like you would like to take that to marketplace and sell on the local shelves here at the grocery store. So individuals could access MSU Product Center services, which will allow them to take that business-based idea to the marketplace. And this reflects the last year's worth of effort. So in Leelanau County, there were a lot of people that were very entrepreneurial while staying home. And these are the result of their thoughtfulness and obviously willingness to think about what could be their next big business item. So again, I want to give a special shout out to the Product Center. There was 3 new businesses and 5 new jobs launched here in Leelanau County, and over $6 million in sales growth through 95 counseling hours. We also had a new staff person join us in the district. Parker Jones does this work in the UP, and he requested a transfer to my territory. And so I'm excited to report that we will have a staff person dedicated to this. So these efforts were from a statewide perspective. So staff that were maybe housed in Emmett County or downstate or in East Lansing, but now we will have a dedicated person in our territory. So I'm excited to see what increased synergy will happen as a result of that. Next slide, please, Ron. And again, many thanks to John Amrine for his efforts with building strong communities, how he works with local municipalities or governmental units like yourself on how to implement best practices and good governance to keep communities productive and engaged. So we did pivot our new county commissioner school to 100% online. And I know I spoke with you on the phone about it, Commissioner, specifically, and I wanted to say thank you for trying something new and engaging in our new commissioner school that way. So thank you for that. I do know the commissioners did report to me the benefit of being able to access some of those recordings at a later time. You know, when you go to a conference and then you say, boy, I wished I could go back and revisit that because now I understand why I need to know that topic. So that was kind of the nice unexpected benefit of all those materials being online. I know John also provides leadership for Northern Michigan Counties Association, which has been meeting virtually and I believe is pivoting back to an in-person meeting this month. And we also facilitated a ripple map evaluation with the Northwest Michigan Food Coalition to the Farm to Neighbor program. Next slide, please. In our Food Security Summit, I wanted to just share something that I did on behalf of Leelanau County residents, but food insecurity during COVID was of a great concern, and Michigan State University provided our online learning platform and registration so that a group of wonderful individuals through the Northwest Food Coalition and other community partners could host a food security summit to bring speakers from across the state and beyond to learn more about best practices for increasing food security. So I just wanted to share that I had provided some overall guidance to that group and utilized our online learning program and platforms, which was a nice partnership as well. Next slide, please. I think when I think back to 2020 and I think back to some of the ways I was planning for last year, I honestly think I would have spent all of my time talking about high water levels with county boards and sharing updates on that. So I think about that, and I was actually chatting with Mark Breederland in the office, thinking about his work about high water levels, and he and I both agree that I think that would have dominated all of the county conversations for sure. But again, just a quick reminder that Mark continues to be a resource to local municipalities, residents, and others who are affected by high water levels. I know he's supported Leelanau County by working with the Fishtown Preservation Society, Leland Library, and other units of government to help provide educational information on high water levels and erosion issues. Obviously, our water levels were down as of a couple months ago. We've had additional rain, so I haven't gotten a report from Mark as well, but if there's at any time you'd like an update on anything with regards to water levels, just reach out and I will make sure he gets that to you. Next slide, please. And again, I always just like to thank you for the partnership. Without you and the partnership with the university, we wouldn't be able to do this great work on behalf of your residents. And always I continue to be grateful, and my door is open if at any time you have additional questions or would like additional information. But thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Questions?
I have a statement, Jennifer. I'm very, very disappointed that you have not mentioned that the Leelanau County resident, Liz Shimmick, who went on to play at MSU basketball, has been inducted in the MSU Hall of Fame. So,
well, I will be sure to add that to my report next year. I always try, but thank you.
I have a picture of.
I try to remember everything, Commissioner Lautner, but you got me on that one this year.
It did just happen, so I'll forgive you.
Well, and it's been a couple of crazy weeks, so, but I appreciate that nice reminder. And we are always very proud of our MSU alums who go on to do great things. And so it's always advertised on our Facebook as well. So thank you.
Yeah. And also, really thank you so much for all your work with the fair. I'm so glad that we're back in person this year. And I know some numbers are down, so hopefully, but we're seeing that a lot with things that are coming back for a first time. Numbers are down just for a lot of different reasons. So hopefully next year we'll have it to pull up there.
And I think the reason for that is I think people were just cautious. I think people wanted that in-person fair experience. And at that point in time, it was just hard to know what it was going to look like. Our organization as a university is making our decisions as quickly as we can, but we're trying to also be reactionary to current health guidance as well. So I do agree with you. I have a strong suspicion that people were just like, well, I'm going to take a pause and think about it. And I do believe that I was at the Kalkaska Fair last week and I'm at Northwest this week. And I was talking to families that are saying, boy, I wish I would have done that, but I didn't know. It was just too hard to plan. So I think we're going to see kids that are there and I say, boy, I wish I did it and I'll be there next year. So I was grateful to be able to, Rosalie asked me to do interviews for the Clover Award, and then I will be there on Thursday as well for the auction. So be sure to jump out there and see and bid high and bid often on these great projects for your Leelanau kids.
I have one final question. You touched on hops. I know that there's, Rob, are our numbers down for hop acreage, and are they? Because I know they're having some issue with Leelanau County just not being able to grow successfully hops because they get that mildew, I believe. So are they going to get a variety that's going to work in Leelanau?
Well, that's a great question, and it kind of relates back to the beer market in general with COVID. There was a big shift when all of the tap rooms had to shut down, and bars and restaurants. A lot of folks pivoted and are producing or canning more for a grocery store because actually sales were up over that time. So that market kind of affects hops as well. But the USDA and NASS just did a survey of Michigan growers within the last year, and there's 650 some odd acres in the state, which is more than I thought. The vast majority of those are 4 or 5 growers, most of them still in Northwest Michigan. So there's folks who are successful if they're good at marketing and sales and they sell out all of their hops by the spring. And there's other ones that are struggling as well across the state. But I think over the last few years, it's been pretty steady in terms of acreage.
Yeah. Okay. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Commissioner West,
That was the question I was going to ask.
Commissioner Soto.
I'm just gonna, first comment how creative your entire staff was last year. Thank you so much for that. And I'm wondering, since the Zooms were very effective for your farmers to, I know in some of the groups I'm involved with, the folks that are farming have really liked the fact that they can Zoom and then go back out. Are you going to continue some of that, or are you kind of dropping it?
I don't believe we're going to drop it. I think each staff and each work team is looking at that to say, what is the best way to reach that audience? We recognize that, like our nutrition education, for example, that really needs to be done in person. So that pivot and going back to that in person is going to be important, as well as our youth engagement through 4-H. But some of our areas, such as our agriculture, our work with local municipalities, we determine that there is some benefit to that. So each staff person is going to look at their numbers and efforts and see what's going to be the best way to do that. I envision we'll be in more of a hybrid mode coming up soon, where we'll have both happening at the same time, recognizing that for some folks that they still might need to Zoom in for health reasons, and will be more accessible like we are for all of our programs through that capacity. So we're currently, that's like where we're at right now, is looking at that. What is the best way to deliver that program based on the need for that community?
Thanks, Jennifer. Great job.
Oh, thank you.
A very challenging year.
Yes. Well, I really commend the staff. When you mention their creativity, I can't say that enough. They all jumped in, and we would have staff meetings and say, how can we do this better? What can we do to reach these typical groups? And as with no surprise, the Leelanau staff rose up and really met that challenge. So thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right, and now that brings us to our action items, and the first up is the election canvassers. Welcome, Michelle.
Okay, the first item is pretty simple, I think. I'll be back before you in September with the 3 names from each of the political parties to fill the vacancies in the Board of County Canvassers. And trying to prep for that, what I'm looking to find out is, one of the things Michigan election law grants the County Board of Commissioners is the authority to request any of the following from county canvasser nominees before making the required appointments. And that's a letter signed by the nominee indicating their interest in serving on the Board of County Canvassers and an intent to discharge the duties of the position to the best of his or her ability. Information on any prior election experience, including canvassing elections, and information on whether the nominee has been convicted of a felony or election crime. I know that our 2 people that are, whose terms are expiring right now, the Republican is Judy Tykert, who I appointed about 2 years ago, and she is interested, at least she said last week, of being reappointed. And the other one is Donna Dodd, the Democrat who you appointed 4 years ago. And so I may get 3 names. I will not. The state party have been notified to notify all the local chairs, and I will also be notifying them and letting them know that those 2 are interested. So I'm not really looking for a motion, but more if anyone wants this additional information, I just want to come prepared in September.
I think it would be helpful for the board to see that information.
Okay.
You know, when you have it available, so I would appreciate you bringing that forward. Okay.
Anyone else?
I don't feel like I need if one person wanted it, I'm happy to get it. If no one wanted it, wasn't going to waste the time. But no, we can get that for you then.
Okay, so is that, and we'll move on to.
Did anyone else have any questions about the canvassing board or? No.
So then it's the Michigan Indigent Defense Commission.
So I was before you a few months ago when we applied for the grant for MIDC. And this is Attorney Paul Jarbo. Did I say that right?
You did. Very
Okay,
good.
and he's here for the second portion of our request. The first one here is just the acceptance of the state grant. You had given me permission prior to apply for it and fill out the application. And I had worked with Paul, with Chairman Bonnick. This was our first year actually applying in e-grams, which proved to be a tad more challenging. They were new to the system, but we got that figured out. Everything that we submitted, it was tweaked just a little bit here and there, but nothing that was out of the ordinary. And they did approve our application. And new in the application this year, which will move to the second portion, is Standard 5 of the Indigent Defense Commission requires that an attorney be staffed to do this. So we have 6 months actually from the time our grant is approved to implement. But there wasn't total support from our regional director coming out. So we've opted with going with an October 1st deadline. And so that will increase the state share of the cost. It doesn't come out of our portion. It comes out of the state share to switch to an attorney. So those costs were incorporated because Chet and I had met with Grand Traverse and with Paul, because Paul represents the other 2 counties, which we can talk about more in the second portion. But so I'm really here in order to get you to accept that state grant.
Where does the local $50-some thousand, is that what we were spending?
It actually for this coming year of their fiscal year runs a little different than ours. It runs from October 1 of 21 to September 30th of 2022. Our state share under this is just slightly lower. It represents a 3% increase, but the 3% increase that the state built in is based on the original contract amount for our local share, which was based on how much we spent in court-appointed attorneys of an average for the years 2010, 11, and 12. And so, and then we transfer that from the general fund. We do have to transfer that. It's not optional, and that money has to stay within our fund. Oh, I didn't write the number down. I always get that mixed up with my CPLs, if it's 260 or 263. It doesn't matter. But the money that comes in must stay in. We can't transfer it back out. And we always have to spend that portion first.
Any other questions?
I move to recommend to the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners to approve grant number 2022-57 between the state of Michigan, MIDC, Lara, and Leelanau County for the grant period October 1, 2021 through September 30, 2022, with an authorized budget of $259,052.32. Funding to come from fiscal year state grant contribution of $206,736.62 and local share contribution of $52,315.70 is presented.
Support.
All those in favor?
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Commissioner, hand up first.
I just wanted a clarification, when you were talking about local share and the state grant contribution. I understood you to say that special fund is set up for this dedicated fund. That 52,315, the local share is deposited in the account as well as the grant. And did I hear you say that the 52,315 local share is spent first?
It's spent first as far as the court-appointed attorney portion goes, is my understanding. And then our other items that are in here, like when you look at the contract for the attorney, that's going to go against the state, but we still have to put our portion in there.
Right.
And they'll look for prior year balances from the state as forwarded us. They send us 50%.
Okay. So it's not necessarily, it's just these dollars are designated for different purposes somewhat, I'm hearing you say.
Right, so like things that we would not have paid for before. We normally would not have paid for their CDAM training. For the court-appointed attorneys. Originally, we had to buy things like for Zooming, the polycoms that they needed. That was used with state money. Things that would be normally outside of our scope
So in other words, the fee for the attorney, the mileage possibly.
We have a king-queen system for the day where we have in district court, a Tuesday's a dedicated day, and I believe it's Friday, where the attorneys are paid a set fee, whether they have one arraignment in front of them or 10 or 0. And we chose to use that model. We tried the a la carte method and we got burned once or twice. And then the administrator and our specialist, they discussed it because they were looking at cost saving measures, but they were also looking fairness to the attorneys that were setting aside their days.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Commissioner Lautner.
Yes, the grant number, is that the state's grant number?
The two, which,
Yeah, it's 2022.
that is their number.
That's their number, not ours.
Correct. It's
Okay.
right on page 33
Mhm.
of your attachments. It was the grant number that's right there at the very top. It's
Why
what they,
did you do it? Is it because that
it's a
money-
21-22, and that's just how they number it.
Yeah, okay.
And a lot of people in the MIDC world are new to these type of things, and they're also not familiar with county government. And that's just how they have chosen to set that up. And they're, that's just the way they do it.
It seems like this could be very confusing.
They operate on a different fiscal year than a large amount of counties. And so there is some tweaking that's going on right now. They're outsourcing their auditing and reviewing of financials from internally. They have had some staff that had left. They had a really wonderful person that they were able to get from a county that understood county government to come over to do financials in MIDC, and she really understood what counties were producing versus what state was producing. And she just really couldn't make a difference, and she left and went back to the county. So now we're in that recycle of training. We just had a conversation with a CPA that requested certain reports that just don't exist for this type of fund in a county's world. So it's just, it's fine. We go with the flow.
Any other questions? Seeing none, then all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Passes 7-0. So then we have the contract.
Okay, so this is attorney Paul Jarbo, if any of you don't know him, from Traverse City. And
Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
he is currently serving as the independent contractor, and I know he has a better title than that, for Antrim and Grand Traverse County. And I think you've been with them for 2 years or 3?
It's been 2. This will be our 3rd fiscal year 22, which is what the county commission just approved. So this will be our 3rd go around with both Grand Traverse and Antrim.
The
That's
administrator and I had met with the administrator and deputy administrator and finance up in Grand Traverse. And most of you probably know that circuit and district, that we are a tri-county circuit and district. And when they contracted with Attorney Jarbo, they had vetted this already, and they went out for bids and had done the interviews and had done all the legwork. And what we do try to do within the circuit is keep consistency for lots of reasons. And so the administrator and I believe our specialist may have been involved, I don't recall. We have been talking with Paul, and the contract he's presented mirrors what is done in Grand Traverse and Leelanau, or Grand Traverse and Antrim. And it is with legal counsel right now being reviewed. And so what we would like to do is, since we're required to have an attorney, it doesn't make sense for us to pull one on staff, but in fact to go with what Antrim and Grand Traverse are doing. It's the same model that we're currently using, but there are some little tweaks that Paul will be doing. And he will be more directly appointing the attorneys, where we have we're doing it, but we're not doing it as directly. I appointed an attorney yesterday just because it needed to be done, and it's in circuit court versus district court. So we'd like to follow that same model and enter into a 1-year contract. So I'm sorry, I don't have the contract because I have not gotten it back yet. I don't believe Laurel has either. And we will have it for next week.
Commissioner Rush.
I just have a question, and how did we arrive at the annual fee? Is it based on population? Is it based on court cases, or is it just based on?
I can address that.
Yes.
It's probably, the better answer is probably historical from what happened with Antrim and Grand Traverse. And this whole transition to having an assigned coordinator of the program of the court-appointed cases has been in the works for quite a while. Our office was contacted by Grand Traverse and Antrim collectively about 2 years ago. And they did, as Michelle indicates, interview about 5 law firms in Traverse City, individuals, to take this. And these were their numbers at the time. The 45 that's included in this contract is the same number that Antrim had proposed and is currently paying for their service. Grand Traverse is quite a bit more, and they're increasing because of the volume that Grand Traverse produces. So it's more historical. And I think that they're the ones who presented the numbers to us. And we felt that that was a fair number in terms of providing the same services to Leelanau County.
So what you're saying is if our numbers go up, the fee goes up?
No, the contract is a 1-year contract, and then it can be renewed each year, and there's a discussion at that point. I'm not too concerned about the numbers in terms of caseload. It's been pretty consistent here. I've practiced up here in Northern Michigan now for 30 years. What could change, and everybody's aware of this, is if the responsibilities that our office has to take care of increases. And the way I say that is because under the Michigan Indigent Defense Commission Act, there are 8 standards that are being implemented by the state, which are statewide. The first 5 have been implemented. The one I'm really concerned about is number 8, which deals with attorney compensation. And that could change the dynamic a little bit, where the commission is recommending that all the attorneys that handle court-appointed cases be paid on an hourly basis versus a fee basis, as Michelle's aware of and the commissioner should be aware of. So right now we're comfortable with that number. That's the same number we were paid by Antrim, and it'll be the same number in their 3rd contract with us.
Thank you for that. I think we need to, in situations like this, try to look ahead and plan for what the future financial obligation would be under this. So what you said was 5 of the standards have been implemented, 3 more are coming down the pike.
Correct.
You have a concern about one of the future standards that may be implemented. What about the other 2?
Well, the other 2, I think we're already doing. They deal with caseload for the court-appointed attorneys and also reviewing their performances. Okay. And we already do that as a matter of business. We were actually proactive in terms of the major change, which was standard 5 that Michelle had referenced, which mandates a separation between the court and those that are accepting court-appointed cases. They wanted that separation, which is what ultimately caused this happening here in Leelanau County, because that had not occurred yet. It did in Grand Traverse and Antrim. But we've been pretty proactive, and we manage and will here too, pretty much everything that goes on with the court-appointed attorneys.
Oh, very good.
And I just want, we have been with that standard 8. The first 4 standards took probably 10 years. This has been in the works for a very long time. With standard 8, we have already had a couple meetings this year between us, Grand Traverse and Antrim, about those costs and what, obviously the different sides are going to have a difference as to what's reasonable, but they were very good. They were productive, and we weren't looking to increase, and it's consistent. That's part of the reason we want consistency. We don't want attorney shopping. We don't want county shopping, because this one will pay. We see that enough just within clients of the system. This one does it this way, this one does it that way. It's like, this is how it's done. So we are trying to stay on top of that and watch those fees.
To maintain a certain level of consistency in that regard. I can appreciate that. And I will go ahead and move.
Commissioner Westphal did have a.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Obviously, we don't have a choice on whether we have a contracted attorney, but it sounds like a lot to me for our county. And I hope that at year end, we might see how that $45,000 has resulted in an hourly kind of a compensation.
Well, I think I would call your attention to the attachment of the proposed contract. It's a 2-page attachment, if you take a look at that. And it really outlines the work that we're already doing for the other 2 counties and we'll be doing for Leelanau County.
Paul, they haven't seen that yet.
Oh, they haven't?
Because-
Wasn't
no,
this part of the
Because
packet?
because it's at
Oh.
legal to be reviewed. So.
Oh, I'm a lawyer. I looked at it. It's fine.
We would like our own lawyer to look at it. So they will see it before they vote on it
Okay.
next week.
Oh, I thought it was part of the packet.
We needed to get this going and
All
Chet
right.
was going to be here to present, but he's on
Okay.
vacation, so I'm here.
Well, there is, let me address it this way, Commissioner. There is an extensive scope of services that we'll be responsible for Leelanau County that we currently are for both Grand Traverse and Antrim. And the real impetus was to remove the responsibility for the things that are listed in the scope of services in the contract from not only the administrator's office, but the circuit court clerk's office, the circuit court judges, the district court clerk's office, the district court administration. So we now wear a lot of hats, not only in terms of selecting the attorneys who will continue to handle the court appointed cases, but determining compensation, reviewing their invoices, dealing with any issues that arise between the clients and the attorneys, monitoring their requirements for continuing legal education. There's a whole slew of things. And this is not just a one-person operation. We have a dedicated staff person in my office that will now be full-time handling MIDC work for the 3 counties. So it may seem like a lot on your end, and I appreciate that. But if you're in my seat for a week, particularly when my secretary is on vacation, as she has been this week.
He's answering his own phone.
The work is significant and the responsibility is significant. And as I indicated, with the additional standards that will come down the pike, particularly the compensation standard, the responsibility will increase. And we're happy to do it. And it does we've always thought it made sense to do a regional approach. So there's consistency for the lawyers and for the counties that are within our circuit district. So I'm happy to come back in a year and report and see what you think.
Well, I look forward to looking at for the attachment, but it does, I mean, this is not the total expenditure for the program. This is just to coordinate it. And I would be interested in seeing the total expenditures at the year end.
Sure.
We do appreciate that, and it's nothing we haven't discussed because several of these things we are already doing. But with the implementation of the standard and the mandate that we have to do it, it has to be done through an attorney. So, and we've had the same discussion internally with all 3 counties. And
maybe it's that mandate that's telling us we have to do it.
This will be a very good discussion if it becomes an unfunded mandate. That will change the discussion and the shift of this if it ever goes to that.
Because we were doing this for 11,000.
About 11 or 12, but he is going to be doing additional things that we didn't have to, and we don't. I mean, the billings will still go through my office. We're currently reviewing all that, appointing the attorneys. I won't with this new system. The county clerks usually on probation violations for felonies, we would appoint those. I mean, it's not extremely difficult, but Paul will handle those and we'll still be talking to him and we'll still be processing all of the invoices and the payments through the county. And he'll just be approving them.
Much of what I was going to say has already been said by Commissioner Wessel on this comment, in the sense that I know we have no choice here, but it's kind of taking a system that was working pretty well and putting it in a more expensive capsule. So it will be interesting to see how much better the entire system worked at the end of the year by paying a whole lot more than what we were doing for a system that was pretty well moving along and serving the community and serving our residents very, very well. So with that.
Well
Look
said.
forward to next year.
Commissioner Rod.
Now, this is just for district clerk?
No, for both district, circuit, and anyone that would be appointed for, say, child support warrants through the probate court too. We also handle those. Yeah.
So what's been the average? Just say,
Average what?
the average over a year, how many attorneys do we?
Well, for
Cases, I should say.
circuit court, on the circuit and district, we use 3 attorneys. We do have occasions where others have to be appointed for availability, conflict. We were in the middle of a jury trial and a retained attorney who wasn't being paid. We were into this case too far and he agreed to become our court-appointed attorney so that we could keep consistency. So we have 3 out here. The outer counties tend to work with fewer, but we can draw on the base of how many they use in Grand Traverse. Caseload, I couldn't tell you. We'd have to have Al for how many he does. I mean, one day in district court, we may have 7 that they see. It's, it just depends. But we stick with mainly 3 attorneys, 2 for circuit court felonies.
So the format has changed, Paul. I mean, it used to be back in the day, but for a felony, I'm going back in time. But
Yeah.
$750 or so, or a felony or something.
Oh, you mean dollar amount?
Yeah.
Oh, the amounts have been the same since Judge Rogers was here for the most part.
There have been very few changes in the fee schedule for the court-appointed lawyers.
I mean, that was the fees back 20 years ago.
Correct.
There have been very few changes. Let me repeat that. And I'm not seeing that's not going to change in the near future.
The counties have input on those, the fee schedule. We had some
Correct.
productive, lively discussions about fee schedules.
Yeah. I think, and Rick, you're probably familiar with this, the way it's always been has been that the judges chose who was on the list to receive court-appointed cases. Phil and Tom in circuit court would pick 3 or 4 over here and 5 or 6 over in Grand Traverse County. And then the district court judges would enter into an agreement with 3 or 4 lawyers to handle the district court cases. That's what's going away. The supervision of that is not allowed to be by the court anymore because of the Michigan Indigent Defense Commission Act. And so that's what we'll do. We'll manage those. We'll decide who's going to take the cases, make the appointments. There had been a question earlier about, I think that Commissioner Lautner brought up in terms of one of the attorneys that handles cases currently. I don't foresee a change in the attorneys that will be used. They're well-known, they're well-established, and they're good lawyers, as they are in all 3 counties. It's the administration of the program that's changing. Ultimately, there will be a review of the fees, and as we discussed, we did meet about a month or 2 ago to talk about what the fees were that were being proposed for the other 2 counties, because Leelanau County wanted to be consistent. And there were some minor changes in the fee schedule. This is a new animal. I didn't think that we had a problem up in northern Michigan with the way things worked. I thought the judges made good choices and the lawyers were accountable to them, but somebody in Lansing decided they knew better. And they imposed a statewide fix on probably a more metro problem that we didn't necessarily have. But this is the world we're in. We're happy to be a part of the solution. And
so this is maybe more of a Michelle question. I would have thought we averaged around 300 per court-appointed attorney. Just back and looking at the bills, that seems to be what they are. But perhaps are these just like one portion of a case?
The $300 that you're seeing is, we call it king queen for the day. Those 300s that are coming in they were assigned a Tuesday or a Friday in district court to handle any of that might not be permanently assigned to them, but it was their day to manage the court. So that those people that needed representations, because they do, in every step of the process, they have their rights to be represented and have an attorney there. And sometimes even if they refuse it, I believe that the attorney will still sit there if it's in court just to make sure. I also think that with this, won't you be making the determination for experts?
yes,
That's a change.
that's a change. That's a major change. Yeah.
As opposed to the judge.
So right now, the system requires that attorney file a motion with the court asking that either an investigator or an expert witness be appointed and paid for with county funds or state funds. And so that has changed. The judges no longer have the authority to do that, and that now comes to my office. And I do that for both of the other counties. Also, in part of the grant are funds earmarked for investigators and expert witnesses.
And
So
our,
we manage that.
right, our experts and witnesses were 12,000. And it's hard to justify going beyond that when you look at where our trends are. But when I was talking to the head of the commission, I learned that we can go back at the end of the year, and if we've overspent in categories and depleted what we have been allotted, we can do an amendment to the prior year and bring those funds forward into the next year to offset that overage. So I thought that was good to know, because you've got to be able to justify these numbers that we're putting in, was the message I was sent.
Commissioner Rush.
Yes, Commissioner Wessel brought up the issue of the 45,000 being a little higher than what we have been allocating for this. So my question was, what were we paying for this?
We didn't have an attorney. We were paying a specialist.
We had a person in this position that was doing this work for us. So how are we comparing apples to apples?
Well,
Just to some degree.
the first difference is that we're required to have an attorney. So therefore the cost is going to go up. We were paying around $27 an hour for up to 10 hours per week. So we were paying about $12,000 a year.
Okay.
But there are enhancements that will be done and removed from the court to the position.
Yeah, you're really, Commissioner, it's not an apples and apples comparison, because as I think we were discussing, this really shifts all of the responsibility for management of the court assigned cases from the courts, from county administration, from the court administrators over to somebody that does what I'm doing now for the other two counties.
So in-house, we were looking at approximately 10 hours a week. What do you anticipate your hourly work would look like for Leelanau County?
I would think that that's an accurate number once things settle down. There's going to be a transition period.
Sure, of course.
Yeah.
Okay. So that 10 hours a week you find is a reasonable amount of time to allocate?
Based upon our experience with the other counties, I think that's accurate for Leelanau County.
All right. I would go ahead and make the move to recommend that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners waive its policy on bid requirements and, pending council review and approval, enter into an independent contract agreement with attorney Paul Gerbeau of Gerbeau and Field. Is that correct?
Well, she prefers file.
Attorneys as an indigent defense attorney, administrator for Leelanau County in the amount of $45,000 for the period of October 1st, 2021 to September 30th, 2022. Funds to come from Fund 260, the Indigent Defense Fund. Correct.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. We look forward to working with the county.
Yeah.
All right,
Thanks.
and that brings us to the Sheriff's Office, acceptance of donation. Commissioner.
I would move to recommend that the County Board of Commissioners allow the Sheriff's Office to accept an anonymous donation in the amount of $500 and place it into the account 101-606-74006.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0.
So this particular donation was for specifically Marine.
The Marine Safety Unit, yes.
Division.
So is the next one, actually.
Okay, so just for clarity, Tuesday, let's just add the, in the motion next Tuesday.
Well, I can,
It's okay. I mean, we just remember.
And the account that it's going in is the
Marine
marine safety specific account.
Revenue line item.
Right, that one.
I do have a question on that though, and thank you for making a contribution, but if ever contributions or donations are given for specific purposes, then they wouldn't be anonymous, right, Dave? I mean, I'm questioning that when we get donations that might be to ask for additional service, I think we have some requirements to know if we're receiving money to provide a service that's not a regular part of service.
And these are not, I mean, these funds are for however the sheriff deems fit to use them within that account. Obviously, we know who they came from. They have requested anonymity. I would think that request would be upon the board whether or not they would want to honor that. But it is not for any specific extra service.
And you understand my question?
Yeah. I agree with it. Commissioner Rush.
on the next item, I would move to recommend that the County Board of Commissioners allow the Sheriff's Office to accept an anonymous donation in the amount of $7,500 and place it into the Marine account 101-674-006.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. And that brings us to secondary road patrol program. Commissioner Rushton.
I would move to recommend that the County Board of Commissioner allow the Sheriff's Office to apply for the 2022 fiscal year secondary road patrol grant through the Michigan Office of Highway Safety and authorize the chairman of the board to sign the application.
Board.
Go ahead.
If I can just say one thing. So obviously we have done this grant well over 20 years, every year. The funds continue to decline. I do know this year, well, last year, the total number was 30,264. They usually give us an initial allotment. And then after the state settles their budget for the next year, then they give us an additional allotment. I can tell you the initial allotment this year is well down from what we got last year. It's $18,672, which the initial allotment last year was a little over 24,000. Now they placed that based on COVID and the lack of traffic, the lack of citations, where a lot of this money is derived from, but those are the numbers that are initially coming in. Based on the secondary allotment, once the state sets its budget, we usually see between 5,000 and 7,000 more that comes in. Now this fund, this grant pays exclusively, all that money goes towards the cost of currently Deputy Scott Robinson, who does nothing but secondary road patrol duties.
So do we have other people doing secondary road patrol?
We do, but he specifically, that's all he does is works the county roads, works county accidents, traffic problems that are on specific county roads.
He doesn't go on the state highways then?
By the rules, technically, he cannot, he can in an emergency, but no, primarily they cross them, they go from one county road to the next, that would be it. All his enforcement action is on county roads.
And what does it cost for this overall, for that deputy?
Depending on the deputy that's in it, it would be upwards of probably $100,000 with benefits and everything, I would say.
And you said last year we got 18,000 and then 5,000?
Last year total, we got 30,264. This year, the initial allotment is 18. I would expect somewhere between 5 and 7, probably around October, once the state finalizes their budget.
Any other questions?
Well, so the idea is maybe to get hold of our state legislators and explain to them that we really need this officer and the good that he does. We don't necessarily want him writing tickets. I think, just his presence on the road alone is quite often enough. and then he's available, as a.
In this fund, to my knowledge, at least last, I believe 81 of the 83 counties participate. Obviously, Wayne County has, I think, 13 of these deputies, and it varies. Grand Traverse, I believe, has 4. So, I mean, it's been a program that's been around for a long time. When I first started 20 plus years ago, this grant fully funded that position. Obviously, it no longer remotely even comes close to that. So like everything, they are slowly dwindling.
Because it just, these funds, they used to come from MSP.
Right.
Right, and.
Now it's through OHSP, you're right.
Okay, but to your question, Melinda, they expect enforcement, they expect tickets because they do look at they used to anyway. They used to look at your grants on production too.
And they still do. We do quarterly and annual reports. I know through budget talks and everything, everyone wondered if COVID would have an effect. I think this is the first thing we've seen that COVID directly affects that. There was less motorists, there was less enforcement action, there was a lot less things going on. And at least this year, it's had an effect. I think it will rebound given what we've seen the last couple months around here. I can tell you our citations are up tremendously from last year, so.
Okay.
This is an interesting comment. What type of violations are you seeing?
Any and all. I mean, speeding, obviously, we've had a lot of speeding issues. Accidents are probably about the same, but mostly it's speeding, that kind of thing. Yep.
It's so easy to speed in the county when you have these open roads. But unfortunately, we see things that go awry like we did this last weekend.
We did, yes, in Glen Arbor. And I mean, the only thing we can say for certain on that is definitely speed related. Other answers will come to us in the future, but that is definitely a speed. Speed was a factor.
Yeah. Makes us think about how we're driving on these roads.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The reason I was asking, I suspected it was speeding because we're getting complaints from communities with tourists. I would be curious how many of these were locals versus, tourists that are getting the citations because slowing traffic down has been a topic of at least the two boards that
Right.
townships that I represent.
We've been dealing with the traffic or a speeding related problem on Dunn's Farm Road which Commissioner Algar is familiar with. We don't break the tickets down by whether or not they're residents or non-residents, seasonal or not. So I couldn't tell you those numbers, but they are definitely up.
When I go down the state to see kids, you don't drive 55 anywhere. If you don't get on the freeway in Detroit and go 80, you'll get mowed down. So I have to do a big adjustment when I go down there. So I watch the tourists here. They're home. They're just driving like they normally do. And yes, they're going really fast, too fast.
Or very slow.
That is a problem too, yes.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Chairman, can we have
Yes, we'll take a 5-minute break here.
Under Sheriff, there was another $300 donation earlier in the week.
call us back to order, please? Silence. Thank you. Okay, enough. We have now the solid waste council, and Trudy's here for that.
Good morning.
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 So the first item today is the cameras for the recycling sites. And I did send all of you an email yesterday letting you know that I put this out for bid. I had 34 companies that reviewed the request on BidNet, but we did not get any responses. I did have 3 companies contact me interested and wanted more time. And so after I went through the bid policy, I have the right then to go out and ask for some quotes according to your rules. So I asked those 3 if they were still interested to give me a quote by this Friday morning. I have received one already, so I know I have at least one to give you for next Tuesday's meeting. So I would like this just moved to next Tuesday's regular meeting if you are okay with that, and then I'll give you all the responses I receive on Friday.
I would make that motion to move this forward to Tuesday night for action.
Second. Can I ask a couple
Yes.
questions?
I was just gonna say, yeah, if you have any questions.
Yeah. This is gonna be for all the sites?
We're
Not
working-
initially, I know you're looking at.
Right,
all of this.
not initially, because we're limited by the amount of money that we have in the grant and the budget. So I'm trying to hit as many sites as I can, mainly target those busiest sites. And we might have to hit the other ones next year with that budget.
Okay, thank you.
So initially you want to do Elmwood and what? What do you consider the busy sites?
Cedar's the one that we've been working on the longest, but it also has a few other issues that we have to deal with in order to get the cameras on site there. And then Empire, Leelanau school site, those would be some other targeted sites, Northport Village.
And just as an aside, what are you going to do about Suttons Bay?
Bring that back to you at a future date. I'm working on it.
Yeah, I'm sure you are.
Well, and, you know, considering Suttons Bay, I mean, when you bring it back, will you have cameras for that? I mean, because that's, you know, I mean, I think that we should, if we're gonna do that again, because I think that was part of the problem, because.
Yes, definitely. That will be a site that would be looked at for cameras, but we have some other issues that we have to work out first.
Sure. Unfortunately. So in between time, there's gonna be, you know, there's not gonna be any at Suttons Bay for a while.
Correct. They do have cameras on site themselves, but they're not targeted right specifically at the recycling site all the time, like we're trying to do with these other sites. So Elmo will be the first one, and that will be a good one to test. They're set up very well with their location and their building there as to how we can see vehicles and people coming and leaving.
Where will the recording go to? Will it come to the county building, or will it be on site, or?
You have to have electricity at all the sites for these cameras, and the best thing is to have the internet connection as well. At the Elmwood site, there is no longer any internet connection there, so the monitor will be there. And when I checked back with the township, I was told that if it needs to be viewed, if there's an issue, they will have somebody view it, and that way we can get that recording and send it over to the sheriff's office.
And at Cedar?
Any of the other sites where we're going to do them the same way, unless they have the internet connection. And then the idea is to have those so that we can look at them from here. So each site is going to be a little bit different, and we'll figure out what we can do once we get somebody to work on all these sites with the cameras.
What?
Go ahead.
What about people who come in at nighttime thinking no one will see? Are they lighted?
The cameras will, these are not cameras that take pictures, by the way. This is actual video. So they're not going to be paused where you look at it and say, well, I think that was the person that left it. This is a video that will show you the person getting out of the car, leaving the wrong materials there, and so forth. They will take the video at night. It may not be as crisp, but we'll be able to still follow up on it.
Good, because some of the things people leave are just atrocious.
Working on this recycling grant with the company that's helping us out, what they have told us is the majority of the problems are stopped once the cameras go in working and the signs are up and people know they're on camera. It's not so much that you're going to ticket people and go after them. It's when they actually know that they are on camera.
So is the amount for the cameras, have you talked to the prosecutor? I mean, are they gonna prosecute?
Yes, before we even did this, that last year I started with the sheriff's office and then also the prosecuting attorney's office as to how this would be done. And the prosecuting attorney's office gave us the proper language that will go on the signs on the site. So it cites the law, what they will be breaking and what the fine is. And then what happens is we send the information to the sheriff's office who can follow up with the ticket, then the prosecutor's office can follow up with that.
Commissioner.
Where did the fine dollars go?
I don't know yet. I don't know if that is actually a fine that goes back into Fund 230 or if it goes to cover the costs for the sheriff's office and the prosecuting attorney's office. That will be something that we'll have to work out.
It just goes back into the courts, doesn't go into a special, you know. It's just like a traffic.
So it goes on the courts.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. The next item, the capital improvement program, is actually on your budget meeting, which will start after this one. So I was just gonna bring that up. Usually I do it at your executive committee meeting and review it, but since it's also listed on that other meeting, I'd like to do that at your budget session, if that's okay with you.
Okay, fine.
Okay, and I do have some other printed copies in case anyone would like a hard copy to follow along with. Okay, I'll leave those here when I'm done. The following item will take a little bit of explanation. So this item is coming to you with regard to our housing funds, and I'm going to explain those a little bit and then explain to you what I've done and what to present to you today. So you have a proposed agreement in front of you. You have an option to consider this agreement or to not do an agreement, which means that any of these funds that we collect annually through our housing program would have to be sent back to the state then. So that is an option. I wanted to let you know. So the county has been doing housing rehab projects since 1993, and the state has moved in the direction where they are now focusing their grant dollars on new homes and rental units. So we do not have any more grants coming to us for rehab of existing homes. The housing manager position, which was held by Diane Kiesel, she is now in an inactive state and has been for a couple of months because we don't have enough funds to fully fund that position. These funds that we're talking about today are called program income, which means that it is repayment of existing loans that we have put out since 1993 in the county. Many of them have been paid off, but what we have left is about $610,000 of loans, and those will continue to get paid back to the county. We track them every year from July 1st to June 30th. We report that to the state. Anything over $35,000 is what is considered restricted funds, which means we have to use it for the purposes that we originally set up. And they're further restricted now because they can only be used for emergency funds. So if somebody says, I really need windows replaced, that's not considered emergency. If they are broken, cracked windows, that would be considered emergency. So they've kind of narrowed the focus of what you can do with these funds. Again, they really have. I'm not.
I'm just thinking if they need the windows and they just go break them.
Your friend.
That might not have been the best example to give you, but that's what came to me right away. Yeah. So the program income that we received from July 1 of 2020 to June 30th of this year is just over $73,000. So that falls into that restricted category. We now have 1 year to either use those funds for emergency housing repairs or decide to send it back to the state. If it goes back to the state, they will put it in their pool for grants for other projects. And I'm doubtful that we will receive funds up here again because of how those grants are being used in the communities they're trying to target. So this is an opportunity to reuse these in the county yet. So I'm proposing an agreement with Northwest Michigan Community Action Agency. They would administer these funds on behalf of Leelanau County for emergency projects. They are allowed up to 18% for admin, that's it. So that's $13,214 based on this last year of program income. I did get an agreement from Community Action Agency that they use with other counties that they service, such as Grand Traverse. I sent it to corporate counsel and they tweaked it, cleaned it up and made some changes for Leelanau County. And that has been shared back with the Community Action Agency. So that's the document that's in your packet today. You will notice that it does not specifically mention that $73,416 amount. It mentions program income and reimbursables. So this is not a contract where they will just automatically get that money. If we enter into this agreement, they have to serve Leelanau County households. They have to give the expenses back to me and it's reimbursable. So it's possible that they could spend, say, $10,000 in the next year. The rest of it then still has to go back to the state. Okay. And finally, I just wanted to mention that this does not take away the county's responsibility on the program income. We still have to report it to the state. We have to track our revenue, our expenses, make sure it's audited and so forth. What it does take away is the brunt of that work that our housing manager was doing with our clients. And it shifts it over to Community Action Agency. And also I've got in here a request to waive the board policy. Again, we're not really sure how much money they might spend out of this. It could be more than the amount that you would bid out, but they are the only agency in this area that I know that is familiar with how these funds are to be used, familiar with MISHDA's requirements, and they're the ones that are doing it for other counties already. So I think it's a good fit. But you have some options. If you don't want to do this agreement, you don't have to. We just report to the state every year, send the money back to them.
How do people qualify for these particular these loan dollars?
There is an income limit that they have to qualify for. They have to live in their home, so it can't be a rental unit. It can't be a short-term rental. It can't be a secondary home. It has to be their primary residence, and they have to fall below an income qualification. And there's an application, there's documents and so forth. So what we were doing to check all of that and send out verifications to verify their income and so forth and that they're working. Community Action Agency will now do all of that. We won't do any of that.
What about our military vets? Same process?
They qualify for it. And then if, when we were running the program, anytime we knew there was a military vet, we would also contact the Veterans Administration to find out if there are other funds that we could pull in with it. And if there's a senior living in the house, even if they're not the homeowner, but they're living in the house, we'd also contact Senior Services to see what funds they could put in together. So sometimes you can pool those other resources and really get the assistance that you need for the homeowner.
I'm kind of like you. I really kind of hate to see the funds go back to the state because we're never going to see them.
No, we won't.
As long as they're, you know, it has been nice to be able to rotate these dollars to provide that good in the community, you might say.
Right.
But
and the reason we have this program income is because Leelanau County from the very beginning set these up as loans. Many counties did grants and the money was gone and they don't have program income or they have very little, but we set them all up as loans so the money continues to come in.
Commissioner West.
And when you get the billing back from the Community Action Agency, it'll only be for homes in Leelanau County?
That's correct. Yep.
So they could not use those funds for Grand Traverse homes?
No, no. And this is set up as a one-year agreement with annual renewals if you want for up to 5 years. So if we do this for a year, and I give you a report that says, I don't think we should continue with this, you could get out of it as well.
I think it's a good idea. Community Action Agency does this work. They're all set up for it. So our agencies here, like Unmet Needs at LCN and Senior Services, they all know about this?
Not at this time because we don't have agreement in place with Community Action Agency yet. But if we do, then I will let them know that anyone that needs assistance does not need to come to our office anymore. They need to go to Community Action Agency.
I know there were some funds, boy, I wish I could remember which they were, that no one in Leelanau had asked for. So somehow we need to get the word out. This is available too.
Commissioner Soto.
Trudy, a couple questions just for clarification. So if this goes well this year, but there's still money left, we can continue using it, or?
No, we
It doesn't matter, it has to go back.
we have until July 1st of next year
That's it.
to use that $73,416. Whatever's left, I have to report it to the state. We will write a check back to the state. We did do that one time, several years ago. We sent back about $25,000. We just couldn't get out the door to do projects.
And what the Community Action Agency will be doing is grants, not loans.
No, if it's over $2,500, it's required to be a loan.
So would that money then come back again to be reusable, or does that just join the money that we're going to?
No, the state has it set up now that if there's a future loans, the loan is set up between the property owner and the state.
Okay.
It's no longer with the counties. They stopped that a few years ago too.
That's it. I mean, when you have the staff available, it's so nice that you are able to do a graded funding and really address the needs. It's sad that we've lost that ability in that position, but this looks like the next best thing in order to reach as many people as possible. And I think, as Commissioner Algar said, we just need to reach out to all of our social agencies and make sure that the word gets out. We use those funds.
Commissioner Locke.
Yes. Well, I would recommend to the Board of Commissioners to waive its bid policy on bid requirements, excuse me, and enter into an agreement with the Northwest Michigan Community Action Agency to conduct housing emergency products using Leelanau County's program income, subject to final review and approval by corporate counsel.
Second.
Well, I guess I had a question. You said there's the 73,000, but if you don't spend 35,000, does that stay?
No.
It's only, the way it sounds, at least when I read this, is that anything over the 35,000 would have to be sent back.
Any program income over 35,000 in that year is restricted to this use. And so we either use it up in that year or we send it back to the state. If we take in less than $35,000 a year, which traditionally has not happened much for Leelanau County because we have so many loans out there. But if we have a year where we take in, say, $32,000, we're not restricted to this. The state encourages us to still use it for housing because that's what the purpose was. But we're not restricted to using it for emergency funds. We could use it, the board could use it for what they wanted.
So I guess I'm not understanding why we don't just put 38,000 into this contract, the amount above it, and then keep the 35,000.
You can't.
Because we're over the threshold.
Yeah, you can't.
They won't let us separate it.
If we take in $32,000 or $10,000 in that next program income year, which just started July 1st, then the state says that's not restricted as housing funds. We can use it how we want. But I have to report that every single year. I track it through counting. I go through all the revenues, what came in. I give them there's a certification sheet that goes in and tells them what it is. So they know that we have over $73,000 and now they want to see in the next year, how are you spending that? So we can't just slide some of it to.
So you can't separate the 73,000 and divide it into the first 35,000 that you could just unrestricted, and then the other 38,000 has to go to this directly.
No.
I guess I don't understand why that doesn't, but if that's the way it is, yeah. Okay, well, all right, I guess I understand it now, but I don't like it.
Well, I don't either.
We don't like any of it, but this is what we got.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. I'll be back for your next meeting and I'll leave, I think there's 4 copies here. If anybody needs a printed copy of the CIP.
All right. So then that brings us to the probate court, Safe Haven.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Ryan Douglas. I'm with the family court. Our court administrator couldn't be here today, so I'm representing the court on 2 items. The first is a motion, seeking a motion to approve the contract between the Leelanau County and the Child and Family Services for the distribution of a 2% tribal council allocation funds for $5,000 as drafted by the Leelanau County Corporate Council.
Commissioner Wessel.
I move to recommend to approve the contract between Leelanau County and Child and Family Services for the distribution of 2% tribal council allocation funds for $5,000 as drafted by the county's corporate council.
Support.
Commissioner Rush.
What exactly are these funds going to be providing for that agency?
This is the Safe Haven program. My understanding is the 2% money was granted by the tribal council allocation to the Leelanau County Family Court, and we contracted out to to Child and Family Services for the Safe Haven. I don't have a program description of the Safe Haven program. I think it's works with visitation of custody matters and that kind of thing.
Right, that's what I wanted to know, what service that they provided. Is this service something that the court typically uses?
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Thanks for that clarification.
Sure.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0. So the MDHSS. Yeah. Anything to say about that?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're at the acceptance of the MDHS raise the age.
Right. As you know, October 1st, 2021, the family court moves into covering or potentially taking jurisdiction over 17-year-olds. Beginning October 1st, 2021, the Child Care Fund will cover 100% of eligible 17-year-olds. This grant will provide additional monies to help cover the costs of non-eligible Child Care Fund youth that come through the family court.
Commissioner Wessel.
I move to recommend that we accept $37,985 from fiscal year 2022 appropriations for Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, RTA 2022 Raise the Age Fund to cover costs which are incurred by the court that are not reimbursed through the Child Care Fund.
Second.
Commissioner Rush.
This is new for us, right?
Yeah.
What kind of costs are not covered and what makes a child eligible?
For example, what we currently do with like first time offending youth, minor offenses, maybe the court has offered what's called a consent calendar program. It's usually like a informal probation, if you will. Those don't meet the mandates, so the requirements of the Child Care Fund, it would be similar to a non-intensive program. Intensive programming for kids in the jurisdiction of the court would be covered by the Child Care Fund, the 17-year-olds after October 1st. So these non-intensive kids might require drug testing, tutoring, counseling. This grant money would help supplement those, would cover those costs.
And that's a good thing.
It is a good thing. We're not sure how the raise the age is gonna change things. Anticipating a 15 to 25% increase in cases.
So does it fully cover all the expenses that are happening for a 17-year-old then?
Yeah, the current raise the age law is going to cover 100% of Child Care Fund eligible youth. This grant will help
Make sure that.
make sure that we have additional funds to cover non-eligible childcare fund youth.
Well, because in the childcare fund, we pay usually 50% of anything that's charged. But so with 17-year-olds, they're paying 100%.
The state will cover 100%.
Is that, I mean, it's over and above the childcare fund, and that's, so I was just thinking that we were paying 50% of it, but.
So you made the comment, if I may, Mr. Chairman, 15 to 25% increase in cases.
That's what the studies are showing right now. I mean, yeah.
For the court. Is that what you mean?
For the court, once the
court.
17-year-olds come in under the jurisdiction of the family
Okay.
court.
The way you said that raised an alarm bell for me because I thought what you were saying is you anticipate that you're going to see 15 to 25% more 17-year-olds acting up, I guess is the way to put it.
I may have misspoke.
So 37,985, how far is that gonna go? What's your anticipated workload?
Again, I think based on this, Joe, our court administrator, wrote the grant. I think he looked at that 15 to 20% increase, 15 to 25% increase. And right now we have 25% of our cases are non-intensive. So those benchmarks help kind of justify, I think, the $38,000.
Let's leave it on account. It could be three 17-year-olds this year. Yeah.
Thank you.
And in theory, the involvement of the district court and in caseloads in district court in the future might go down.
Correct.
And that's, we deal with them in family court.
Yeah.
And then prevent them from happening later.
That's right.
I'm all for that, so just so you know.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you for your time.
All right, then we have the legal and jail authority recommendation.
Morning.
Good morning.
How y'all doing?
Good.
So I don't understand what this ladder, where's it going? Is it on the outside?
The EDS?
Yeah.
Okay. What this is an ask for $975 to get a CAD drawing for a ladder system. And with regard to the photos, photo number 1 is the one to look at. What we need to be able to do is to climb from just this side of that door going into the control room up over this side bulkhead and then down onto the pad where the water's running. So when the dam gets pulled all the way up, being able to get to that pad allows us to get in and take a close look and to grease the bearings that are there.
So unrelated, when that happens, when you raise it all the way up, no water is flowing over the dam
Correct.
for a while. Okay.
Correct. It can flow over the fixed boards right next to the hotel.
Okay.
So,
Because MSU had a picture of Leelanau this morning and there was no water flowing over the dam. And it doesn't happen very often, but once a year, maybe. How long do you get down there?
very seldom. It kind of depends on what Jerry has to do. He may want to pull it all the way up to get a reading. You pull it all the way up and wait for a certain number of minutes and you can take a reading, which actually the court order wants us to do on occasion, get a reading at the dam. Jerry has all of the facts and figures to correlate the reading that he's currently getting at the dam with the reading at the narrows. So he knows exactly where he is according to court order, the narrows, the south end, and at the dam.
So right now, how are you getting up there now?
We haven't in a while.
Since 2000.
The drain commissioner, when he was a little bit more spry a couple years ago, would shinny up over that and drop onto the pad and run up there and grease. But now that we have this wall here and we have a safety device coming that will be installed, it allows us to put the safety device in place with the dam all the way up. So it's an additional safety, physical safety above and beyond the hydraulics. And then with the ladder system, we climb up, down, and do what we need to do.
And will the ladder be there permanently?
Yes.
Do we have any, obviously someone would have to scale the wall to hit the ladder, but is there any worry about someone else trying to get up there and play on that ladder?
It will be inside that locked door that you see open on the first page. It will be a tight fit, but as you walk inside that door, the ladder will be there on the wall, and there will be a platform at the top with a railing. You have to, you won't be able to stand up straight because of the coves, beams, and then you go down the other side, which will be probably 2 feet off the base of the runoff there.
Won't scale that.
Yeah, it won't be on this angled part. It'll be
on the inside,
closer to the control room.
Okay.
It's a little hard to visualize, but
the decking, they replaced and they improved their railing, which changed our whole access point, which you're higher up to get onto the rail, then you have to let yourself over, straddle that 3-foot cement, and then drop yourself down. But being the railing is higher, now their wooden railing, there's no way to safely do it. That's what I'm looking for the future. If someone else comes after myself, basically you try to idiot-proof what you can, because the liability would far outweigh, and someone getting hurt, which goes beyond the liability. They have to live with that for their life. So that's what this ladder is for, is a safety mechanism for myself and Steve or anyone who decides to go out there. But we'd wear a vest that I have down there. But right now the accessibility has changed. Before it was, shinny over the top and let yourself down and try to skate across there.
Wouldn't it be cheaper to make a gate there?
No, sir.
You take that railing and have it so it can be locked and then you just open it up?
Because of the decking and the where that edge is, okay, what we did before, the edge of the drop off, the flat, is close to that 45 cement. So it's not a safe access point, okay, to just open a gate and then try to shinny across. So someone slips off that, they go down. It's not just a step off and you're good to go. You're right at the edge of Lake Michigan right there. So it's a safety factor, and it would bode well for our situation.
We had talked kind of around a little bit, trying to visualize a way to get down there that would be safe. And we talked around kind of the idea of coming at it from the walkway above and every which way, but we get into a private property situation, and this is ours that we can actually do, and it physically is very safe and enclosed, and nobody can get to it. So this is kind of where we ended up.
Well, is that for the ladder or is it just for the drawings?
The drawings,
Just for the
so
drawings.
we own it, then we can go out for bids after that if we choose to do so. But we have to have something, a spec, and I've had, okay, so then we have the option. That's what this gives us.
Yeah, the jury had kind of nosed around a little bit at ACE, and when we do get the CAD, the dam authority decided not to go any farther than let's get the CAD and get our hands wrapped around it, and then go out to bids if that's what we decide as the authority. The unit itself, powder coated and the whole 9 yards, is going to probably be in the neighborhood of $6,000. And I believe installation would probably be a little more than that. So when and if we go out to bids, we go out for the piece and the installation. It's kind of a tricky spot to work.
Commissioner Locke.
You were kind of, well, you asked one of my questions, and that was, this is just a CAD drawing, so we wanted to know the cost of the actual ladder itself and installation, et cetera. And we still have that locking mechanism, but, you know, it just seems like I was going back through bills this month, and it's like there's a lot of nickel and dime stuff in there for the dam. And it seems like just repeatedly, there's more and more and more stuff for that dam, and we've just been covering that. And, you know, every issue comes down to safety with that dam, which is, we feel like we should be paying for, or we feel like we should do something about, or that it has to be done, and we should do something about it. So it just brings me back to, you know, we had that assessment district, and I just feel like we should have put that in place, and we could have done 50-50 and continued to just assess the lake owners for 50% of the repairs and us for 50. And I think that it would have been a very good educational piece for us to do. But we just continue to pay everything for this dam only because of the court order. And it concerns me. You know, we have other lakes, they have their own dams, they pay for everything on their lakes. And yeah, every time, well, okay, we're gonna take care of this, that'll take care of it. And then the next month, there's something else with the dam. Well, you know, we'll take care of that. And then the next month, there's another emergency. And it just seems to go on and on.
Commissioner Sotos.
Yes, I move to recommend that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners waive its policy on bid requirements and approve the quote from Ace Welding, Traverse City, for the CAD design of ladder and platform at the Leelanau Dam, pending council review and approval in an amount not to exceed $975. Funds to come from 805. And to speak to that, we have an agreement with the dam authority that for the next 10 years, we're putting in X amount of dollars as needed for safety. And so I know that there are amounts coming back, but it's consistent with what this board agreed to do. So.
I'm sorry, but I can't support the motion as presented for the reason of waiving the bid policy. There are several welding companies out there, or people who do CAD drawings, and I'm not so sure we got best price for this.
Jerry bumped Machine Engineering, talked to Pat a little bit, and it's just a verbal, and Pat was saying that if his outfit did it, it'd be in the neighborhood of $2,000 to get that CAD drawing. So that was just a verbal, so. Anyway.
Right, well, you didn't provide the board with any of that information if you went out and had a verbal.
What are you asking? Or what are you saying?
My concern is waiving the bid policy. That's my concern. I can't support the motion as it's been stated.
So if we remove, I'm
Commissioner Locke.
sorry, my apologies.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, and that's exactly where I was going, so I put my hand up in the air at the same time. We have, you know, you have Actron Steel, you have Wheelox, you have Ace. that's all I can think of right now that I know of. Those are 3 of the bigger welders in the area. And also the difference might be fabricators. So sometimes, I don't know that CAD drawings are necessary. Is OSHA making you do CAD drawings?
Pardon me?
I think if it's going to go out to bids, it's my understanding that it needs to be in CAD format
Needs to be in CAD
instead of
format.
sketch format to be an official, because we're talking about something that's going to be probably in the neighborhood of 6,000 or so. So it's enough of a complicated and precise thing that can't be a sketch format. It's got to be CAD, and then CAD can go out to bids, and then we could use the format that we've got to go everywhere with. It's my understanding that CAD is the way we have to go.
Okay, so that being said, I mean, it might very well possibly be, but I agree also that we should be getting some more, using our bid process on this and making sure of where we are on it. And we need to look further into how we're going to continue to fund this dam, because it just goes on and on.
Commissioner Robbins.
I guess I look at this, just a couple weeks ago, a month ago, we just raked Pico coals. And I know Terry, he does good work. But this is handwritten, I mean, this bid should be more descriptive than what it is. I mean, we did it to Pete, we expected it out of Pete, we should expect the same out of Terry. We gotta stop seeing these handwritten, I mean, we need to see something a little more professional, what they're gonna do,
Sure. I've had Terry down there twice and taken measurements. He drew something up, and to be more precise, what you're looking for was a CAD drawing. So as the county we would have everything more specific. That what you see is general, but it was asked for a CAD drawing, something more specific, and that's what I talked to him about. But this was what we want to do, and how you want to proceed is your call. But to get a complete proper, it costs time and money. And to give us, we would purchase that, of course, as you know, and then we can go out when we choose with that information to seek bids for building. And that's what I'm trying to do here for $975. And that price was, I did call Pat Machin, talk to him, and he said, Jerry, he's worked with Ace Welding many times over the years. And as you know, Pat Machin does big time construction on dams and different things around the country. He said, I can't touch that for less than 25. Most architects, to get a CAD drawing and do it specifically, said that's a good price. That's why I came to you. We came to you to request $975 so we could have something in our hand, and then we can discuss how to proceed from there if we want to proceed from there.
I understand that, but there should be a breakdown of $975, what he's gonna do, how many hours is it gonna take, I mean, is it, takes him 3 hours, are we paying $300 an hour to draw a CAD? I mean, that's what I wanna know.
He's asking, Rick's asking that this document be more professional, right? And more, and delineated out and whatnot.
If we're gonna make Pete do it, why aren't we making Terry do it?
That's whatever you want is fine with me. I'll be happy to talk to him about it.
Yep.
See what he can come up with. Did the design get put in place? Is there a design
Actually,
in there other than
this
that?
piece of paper would need to be more detailed and professional, typed out and delineated, and
There was no picture of his drawings?
Well, the 975, I can
thought there
work
was-
with you, yeah.
There's no pictures put with that layout?
I just
No.
know what was given.
Okay, well, that answers that question. Okay.
I understand, Commissioner, I understand the concerns a number of commissioners have expressed about avoiding sole source. If you did go out for bid, does that derail anything? Because the gentleman who submitted this could be one of the bid submission.
Correct.
So is there a timing issue here that if we remove that one stipulation and opened it up for bids, then I think people are prepared to support this, if I'm hearing comments. So would that be a problem for you?
No, open up for bids for the drawing.
Just for the CAD?
Okay, that would be fine, except I don't know if you'll get people to come and do it for free. That's our issue here too. People are just gonna walk in and say, and then will they get the bid or won't they get the job? That's kind of an issue I run into all the time is, can you do this? Well, sure, but how much do I give without all of a sudden it becomes public? And then someone walks in and says, well, I can do it differently or whatever. I was trying to go with somebody who gave us, this is what I've talked about. I've been there with him. This is what I'm looking for. I'll draw you up something. And I said, okay, but you can't expect people to come in and throw something together like this for free anymore. I've run into that situation. Well, we want to, but no. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Well, see, and I'm not understanding why this is even in front of this board. I mean, anything under $200,000 or $2,000 doesn't have to go out for bids. It can be just authorized by the head of that department, as far as I know, by our policy. So are you over budget? Is that why it's here?
Yes, it's not budgeted.
Well, I know it's not budgeted, but they have a budget, and if they have money within that budget, they could do it. So you're saying you've already spent your entire budget or on any of these items and you want to do this now this time?
Correct.
So I would say that this is something that we've had for a long time and we can delay it. It doesn't have to be on this year's budget.
Okay.
I mean, otherwise it can be just done by the head of that department.
No, I agree.
I mean, am I wrong in that? I mean,
Will you be needing to utilize, to get to the place that this ladder is going to allow you to get to before next year?
Well, it would be nice. It's a maintenance item. I'd like to get out there and get those bearings greased myself, but yeah.
Commissioner Elder.
So we're potentially, the ungreased bearings can lead to much greater costs in the future. Someone hurting themselves, becoming injured is also a big cost. Are we really willing to risk those two things for $975? What if he attempted to get other bids for this CAD drawing for next week's meeting? And he either can get them or he can't.
Well, if no one bids, it's a list.
Commissioner Love.
Okay. It's a much bigger picture than the simplistic idea that you just threw out there, Commissioner. And I think that we've even raised bigger questions here. So this is a matter of a budget being over budget. This is a matter of CAD drawings. This is a matter of building this ladder, installing this ladder, and using this ladder how often? My first question. So it's been since, what, 2009 you said, since you've greased bearings? Did I hear you correctly?
When we went out, it's been 2006. I got pictures of Steve. We were out
So
there
how often are the bearings supposed to be greased?
twice a year.
And they haven't been greased twice a year?
No, because legal to get out there, OSHA got involved and, then we're talking some serious money. If someone gets hurt, then it just can snowball real fast.
But
But
a much bigger problem than just doing it this way, I think. And my next question would be then, if there are experts who work on dams, so contractually, what would it cost to have somebody who works on dams come in here and grease the dam? However, at the rate, you just said you threw it out there, twice a year they should be greased?
well, that's
According to,
when that was told to me back in 2005, 2006 when we put it in.
so this is even a bigger problem then, because I don't know why this wasn't dealt with back then, and we don't already have a situation or why we haven't been greasing it. I know OSHA got involved, you said, I understand that, and that leads to even more problems.
Correct.
So I think we should look at what it would cost to have an expert come in so that our our employees aren't going down and increasing the bearings on that.
What's the bearings and also the, just the overall structure itself, the grouting and different things that have to be inspected. So I understand what you're saying, you know.
I think
agree.
we should look at a dam expert.
Well, and I noticed that even in this bid, it doesn't say he's gonna do a CAD drawing. Yours keep talking about a CAD drawing. It just says a detailed drawing. So I don't even know if we're gonna get a CAD drawing.
I guarantee you'd get a CAD drawing.
But it does not, his quote does not say that. Commissioner Rush.
That's true.
If Ace Welding does the CAD drawing, or, yes, because that's what you're saying, you need a CAD drawing. Does that not prevent a conflict of interest as far as when it comes time to bid the job?
No, because the materials that he will be using, everyone has those materials, Actron steel, Jacqueline steel. I went to him because I've worked with him and I trust him, and he knows what he's doing too. They all do, but there is a price involved to get that information. Today's world, and things have changed, but that's all I'm doing right now is trying to get you, so we have something in hand that we can use when we so choose to do it. That's all it is. It's you know, trying to look to the future on this deal.
Well, I understand some of the concerns. I'm concerned that the dam authority recommended this. Our maintenance director says we've got a safety issue. I'm not comfortable just tabling it. We need to either allocate more money to the dam authority and let it get fixed, or have a timetable to get it fixed, because we've all been told now we have a safety and liability issue and a mechanical issue. So we can't just pass it down. We got to have a plan to solve it. So I'd like to move this to next week and see if we can address some of the concerns and have some suggestions from the administrator and Jerry and the dam authority on how to proceed.
Is that your motion?
I think there's a motion on
Yeah,
it.
there is a motion on the
okay.
table.
That's correct.
And that's a different motion, so I'll withdraw mine and let you make your motion.
Is that good? We can put a second?
Yes, it is.
All right, so that's, and so now do you want to make that motion?
Yes, I move that we move this forward to next week and ask the administrator and Jerry to get us a recommendation.
Second.
Right, and I guess, I think Jerry said this hasn't been greased since 2006. I think looking at getting someone there to do this and do whatever other things that they get that done by a contractor, we wouldn't have to be concerned about the liability at this time. And if this is going to take a drawing and then the fabrication of a ladder, you know, we may be talking a year before we get this done. And then we can look at that at this time. But I think, to me, the most immediate thing is we get them greased, because I think Commissioner Alguier said we have a problem with that. It's much more costly and all that. But I mean, I know it only moves twice a year on you know, possibly, so it's not too serious, but yet I think that would be the way to address it to start with. I mean, because you're talking, what, 14 years or 15 years since it's been greased, so. I think we gotta go, you know, I don't want to usurp the dam authority, but I know what they're trying to do, but I think we've got something that's much more serious myself. Any other questions or still?
I didn't, is it true it hasn't been greased since?
No. No.
How come
The movement of the dam, it varies the past couple of years because of all the rain we've had. I've manually had to move things, close it up, open it up beyond its normal. You know, trying to move boats down below. Last night I was in there at 9:30 last night, closing it up so they can move boat up and down below. And then I had to open up the gate more because of the rain we got, because we're up to 2 inches. We received, and right now under the narrows, it's going back up to 9 foot 3 inches, where I like to keep it around 9. So I'm, you know, things are working, but yeah, we're, you know, we'll go through the process like you want to, and get the information you need and come back to you with better drawings. or with drawings, so, that I already have, but I don't have them with me.
Go ahead.
My only question is, of course, this is civil engineering, I suppose, question, and that is, are there people who do this?
Correct.
There are.
I'm sure there are. It would, however, we'd have to go through liability and all that stuff with them, make sure they're all set up, and then they have to, how they're gonna access it will be interesting, safely, and we cannot come down from the top because the walkway sets back from the gate itself when it's up about 2-3 feet. So it's not like it's over the top where you can drop a extension ladder over the top and go for it. Okay, and once you get down there, of course, it's like a skating rink, so you have to use a broom to try to, sweep the slime off, and, but we have not accessed it now since 06, when Steve was down there, and I was taking pictures while he was pumping grease to it, but that's where we're at right now. As I'd like to say, belabor it, but as one reaction creates another reaction, is where we're at, one piece at a time. To throw this all together at one thing with the lockout procedure and the ladder and the trap door that I have to put in as part of this cost here that I had built. I have to cut the door and then in place this drop door, you hit the lever and it opens up. Access in case you cannot get the main door open, because that's the only way out. So these things, one thing, okay, I need this. And as time goes on, especially when they changed the railing that we were able to get over before, and like I said, lay flat out and let yourself over onto the flat, that's no longer a safe way things are. It's just, we cannot. And I'm looking at this, as you know, as someone, after I'm gone, someone else can come in and be safe enough to do what they have to do. And so we weren't trying to do anything in the wrong. It's just, the cart before the horse kind of thing. So time-wise, we can, continue on. I can fine tune all this. With Steve's help, we'll fine tune it and get you that more information. And we'd like to do it this year, sure. But if we have to wait till next year, we'll wait till next year. But
Another question, it sounds like when you're talking about sweeping off the slime, that there are other things that you need this ladder, you need an access for other things. It's not just grease.
it's
It's
correct.
other things that are going on all the time that you're dealing with.
Correct.
So it's a major safety issue for you all the time.
Accessibility, correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I think we were all left with the opinion that it's greasing the top, which was what was needed, or
Yeah.
greasing the.
It's down at the bottom, the
controls.
knuckles at the bottom.
So that's a different picture.
So
Mr. Rock.
So Jerry, is it possible for next week that you could maybe find out what it costs to have somebody come in, excuse me, just to grease it, so we're safe there, and we're starting a new budget, and we can start this cab thing and the ladder into next year's budget?
You good with that?
Yeah, we'd have to modify, the budget's in a real tight budget, so we'd have to modify it.
Yep, when the commissioners look at that at budget work session, then we can discuss that. If we know we're gonna get to that fund, then you wanna be present. Because right now we know repair and maintenance should be upped from what I estimated has been years past.
And then we can cover the overage at that time.
The overage can be covered at today if they wish, or after regular session on Tuesday. If the board decides not to go forward with the 975 bid and then through the ladder for this year's budget, then I would just need an adjustment for what we think the repairs to get us through till December would need to be, so that we can then move money, because it will come from the general fund, to cover the expenses that they have already gone over. And when I talked with Jerry and Steve, I'd like to do that at one time. So we would probably do that at the end of November before December to have a clear picture of how much the general fund still needs to send.
Yeah, you gave us that information. Commissioner Rush.
As you noticed, I went over and picked up the capital improvement plan, because I did recall that you had a request on that. And for the life of me, I do not understand why this process has not been thought out a little bit more long-term. This is a 5-year plan, capital improvement plan. So all of the things on your wish list, you know, whether it's required, not required, mandated, not mandated, if we've got big projects, as the board, typically, we're looking at our capital improvement plan at budget time to see what kind of expenses that we're gonna be faced with for the whole year. And when I look at for the dam, you guys, you got $11,000 in here
But not
for 5 years. So, you know, you handicap the board because we are not getting the big picture. What needs to be done over the course of 5 years?
The agreement that we went through with Dam Authority and when we approached whether or not we were going to do the special assessment district or not was laid out in detail over 10 or 20 years. I forget the number.
10 years. I think it was 10.
15?
10 years and $40,000 a year.
Okay.
That's
so-
what I remember, that's what I.
So that document is with you.
Yes.
And I have it back in my office. So that document is with you. We didn't transfer that document to the CIP, and that's something we missed. But you have the document that showed all of that.
Who's got the document? Do you have it in your office?
I'm thinking if it was discussed during open session, it was probably uploaded to the web, so I have to go look that.
Yeah, and I think Commissioner, John Pope put it together. It's really where a lot of the information came.
But has it ever been under budget yet? Has it gone over budget every year? Do you know?
Yes.
Okay. So somebody who just said, we don't have the big picture, we don't have the big picture on this dam, that should be revisited. We need to look at the revenue stream. And it's clear that a lot more needs to be done with this dam. And it's clear we're not keeping up on the repair and maintenance, and it's clear that we need to get on top of this. And I would say, as far as the revenues, if 40,000 a year is not adequate, we need to be going back and revisiting the idea of the special assessment dam, raising that amount budgeted and doing it right. But there's no reason that we are paying 100% of the whole amount. Yes, Laurel.
Sorry. One note that I was listening to the discussion, the ARP funding does provide funding for infrastructure, and dams are part of that. So that is something we might be able to get funding from for any future issues with the dam.
We're gonna get a lot of hits for that.
Right.
So we have a lot of requests for it.
All right, so we have a motion to move this forward. Did you have any other questions?
No, thank you. Who's my seat?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much for that.
Thanks
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
All right, then that brings us into the Park and Recreation and the Fish Pond Walkway.
I'm Dave Barnes with the Parks and Rec Commission from Wood Township.
Well, so you're here to present a walkway. Is it 6 or 8 feet wide? I've heard two different reports, one way or the other.
8 feet.
Okay. And I mean, isn't this supposed to be a natural park, a natural area?
Well, yes, that's stated in several places in the rec plan and the 5-year plan, this fishing resource has been supported, I think from the very beginning of the park, and it's a safety issue. It's come to our attention through our experience with particularly the kids' fishing day. This is not really changing the use of the park by addressing the safety issue on the shape of the bank.
Well, I know, I mean, I've had my grandsons over there, I've had one fall in, and I just grabbed them and pulled them out, And it, to me, it's gonna take away the natural area of it. I mean, kids fall in the water no matter where they are, I don't know, and I just think that it's gonna take away from that if we put a gravel type, some kind of walkway around it, it's gonna look almost more like a parking lot, especially where you designed it for that, the nice sort of pie area that's there. And, it has a sign that when you come in on both ends, it's natural area. So it just kind of, I just don't like it. I think that it's excellent. There's little niches down where people stand and fish, all around. You can see where they've used them, and then if you've got a 2 to 4-year-old there, you gotta watch them. I mean, it wouldn't matter if you had to walk where they could still fall in. I mean, if you put a dock, they fall off the dock. They're just, and by building this up and higher, it's gonna make it harder to fish them out of there. Because at least I could step down and grab them where he went right in. Michelle?
I had the same reaction. Kids need to learn to, and when you go fishing, you want to be in a natural area. So what if you, and so I think it's a 90-foot walkway. So you're right, it wouldn't be natural at all, and fishing should be natural. So how about if you had a smaller platform, if you've got a kid on a wheelchair, or a child with mobility issues, or, a parent who's really concerned their child is unstable. You have a small platform where a few those kinds of kids could stand, but the rest of the kids can fish naturally and learn to deal with slippery slopes, which life is full of.
My question is a little bit different. In your capital improvement plan for Veronica Valley, you've got 7 items listed, and the 7th is this trail ahead of electricity, septic systems, drinking fountains, things like that. And I just wondered what was the motivation to raise this up to the top priority over the other items that are in there?
Safety. Expressions of safety concern coming from that group of gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, who put on the kids' fishing day.
One thing I would add is the park is a passive recreation park, is the technical terminology. And the accessibility that goes with the trails and every aspect of what we're going to do with the park is a key part of what we are doing and thinking about as we look at that park. The plan that went in place that we weren't able to get money for talks about above and beyond ADA universal accessibility. It's a little bit wider than an ADA purely simple law. And the accessibility of this particular spot allows people with handicaps, as we look to the future and connect this to the parking lot, it'll allow people with wheelchairs to get to this fishing spot. Not just kids, but vets. Vets use the park for hunting off the backside. Sheriff Bogovich assists with that. So accessibility is a huge part of what we're looking at, and accessibility has specific guidelines with regard to width and surfaces and whatnot. So this fits into accessibility. It fits into making this particular spot more safe than it has been. So it hit a lot of the issues that we're looking at Veronica, and this did raise to the top because of the safety issue, because of all of the other items that I mentioned.
Thank you.
Mr. Vaughn.
I've got a few questions. At Parks, I didn't get a copy of them, but one of the gentlemen had a copy of the drawings of what it would look like, the slope, et cetera. And did he say that it was a MMRMA recommendation to lower that slope for the fishing?
I don't believe so. Do you have memory of
Whose
that?
recommendation was it that we lowered that slope? He had, someone recommended that to him.
John was talking about slopes that are acceptable with regard to access with a wheelchair.
ADA.
And,
Okay.
and he referenced, he did check the Mighty Mac Bridge
Yeah.
with that slope in mind, and that does comply for ADA. So that was an aside, but his slope of the walkway, as it would go to the parking lot, he was talking about slopes there and what the slope would have to be for ADA
But
and
we're talking about this
universal
one.
accessibility.
This walkway particularly, and this would allow for wheelchairs to get down to the pond here and fish off this platform or this.
And keep in
walkway.
mind, we're talking about a relatively small strip of the bank of these ponds, and the rest is natural and will be left natural.
Right,
but-
but this is the ADA we've been looking for fishing.
Correct, yes. No, I'm not disagreeing with you.
We had talked in the past about doing a big platform out over the, where they just drop the line right down off and.
Well, we talked about even turning it into a beach. That's where
And then the
the
beach
risk,
stand.
well, the risk assessment done by
MMRMA, that's what they.
MMRA strongly said, do not make it a beach. You will welcome swimming use of the park if you do that.
Okay, so that was my point. Safety has been a real concern with the ponds because we encourage fishing, not just fish day, but we encourage fishing year round.
And it
This
is
makes
used heavily year round.
It's heavily used and it's
No, warm
will
season.
make the accessibility to that pond safer since it is used. And then so we had only one bid came in, but did watch bid process, full bid process, and we have one bid back. So as far as the budget, we are, I'm not really sure where our capital projects budget is. We've used 21% of our budget as of the end of June. So were we okay budget-wise?
You have no capital outlay as of yet.
We have not spent our
No.
capital outlay, and that was 45, so, okay. All right. Thank you.
Commissioner Albert.
So something you said, Commissioner Bunnick, that once you have this walkway, are people gonna have to have life preservers if somebody falls in? And it's difficult to pull them out because.
I cannot see how this is going to be more difficult to pull someone out. We're talking about changing a slope that right now is very uneven, full of holes. At times the actual point where the land touches the water depends on the height of the pond. And so it shifts in and out. I don't see.
Platform?
No, it's a hard crushed stone surface.
Are you gonna excavate so that?
The reason it's going to be 8 feet wide is because of the savings involved and the ability to get it absolutely smooth using a do-more tool, which apparently is 8 feet wide. I mean, we've gone through discussion at Parks and Rec of the width and have determined that 8 feet isn't going to hurt us and it's going to be a much, well, I guess, cleaner.
So you're gonna dig into the slope and create a flat path.
we're gonna change the angle of that slope as well. There will be some reshaping of the old practice putting green, which is what this surface is, and it dropped on all three sides rather steeply to the water. So there will be reshaping of that slope, to be sure.
So for clarification, reshaping the slopes, I'm looking at that pond closest to the parking lot where the bridge is.
Correct.
You're reshaping the slope all the way around to that bridge from
No.
one entrance to the
No.
other?
The old practice putting green is a semicircular peninsula that sticks into the pond immediately adjacent to the parking lot. It's not around on the side where the bridge is.
Oh, okay.
Right here.
Do we have-
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yes, all right.
I mean, I'm very familiar with that area. And are you gonna, so is there still gonna be like a 2-foot drop when you put the boards in and the boardwalk? That's why I'm thinking it's gonna make it less accessible to grab.
Well, it won't be
Because you're gonna be 2 feet off the water now, and there's no hole to get down to the edge.
That's what I want to clarify, Will. This particular area is the only spot on that pond that has some logs that go down about 4 feet. The rest of the slopes are smooth. 4 years ago, we thought we'd just go scoop that all out. And if you look at your sketches, if this is that wall, the slope comes right down to the wall and you can't walk along those logs. These logs go down 4 feet. What we want to do is lessen that slope and bring it back. So it's not being raised up. It's still going to all be level with the water. There's those cedar posts along there that Grant put in there. That's going to stay there. What we're doing is just putting a little wooden barrier around there, lowering that slope so that kids don't run down there and fall in, and bring it out and just put gravel. So it's gonna be just like all our other paths. We talked about making it out of wood. We talked about blacktopping it, and we wanted to keep it all natural. And that one sketch shows it pretty good. It shows a slope going down like this is where the people fall off, and there's no way of getting back on. And they're thrashing down there in the water to where you can bring it back and then lower the slope. And they're gonna scoop that all out and put that in a hole. This is the only place on that pond that has those logs around it. And we've been working on it for about 4 years. We thought about expensive platforms. We thought about going for grants. And we said, hey, the best is, let's just scoop it out. In addition, it has this sloped walkway to where someone could go down there then in a wheelchair and fish if they wanted to, or sit there. So nothing's being raised, nothing's being filled, no artificial surfaces. We're putting this old guardrail post around there that we have. And I think we got a real good bid on this. Others didn't put in for a bid. And we need to correct this dangerous situation a lot cheaper than what we thought we were going to put it in with the grant.
So as I'm looking at your drawings, this represents a very small percentage of the pond itself.
Right, about 160 feet,
And the pond is how many roughly feet?
acres.
So this is a very small component
Pond is 1.1 acres,
to allow access.
to improve access and improve the safety
Well put, to
of
improve access.
access. John just used the term of a rail, and he said around. There isn't any railing. If the requirements for railing have to do with the height of the hard surface, whether it's a dock or decking or gravel, packed gravel such as we're talking about, the height of that above the water level, that's what determines whether or not you need a rail. Given that we're keeping it at the water surface, what we need is a curb. And that's where these timbers that are described there will be used as a curbing all the way around such that a wheelchair can't roll off.
So we looked at all the rules on that and regulations with regards to, what I meant is we're gonna use Womanized guardrail posts that we have. So this is a good plan.
I would recommend to the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve a bid from Elmer's Crane and Dozer for the construction of a fish pond pathway at Veronica Valley Park in the amount not to exceed $23,500. Funds to come from 756.970.
You want to speak to it?
I'm just going to say, we've kind of spent some money on Veronica Valley a few years ago, and then we spent some money at Old Settlers, and we spent some money at Miles Kimmerly, and we're kind of back in the rotation of spending some money at Veronica Valley again, and it's something we've talked about for a long time. So I think this will solve that problem that we've got there. And I don't foresee any more fishing improvements that we need to do at those ponds now. This is the one we talked about.
The bridge doesn't need painting. We looked at that. The bridge doesn't have lead paint on it. We looked at that. We looked at the slope of that bridge and it meets ADA requirements. We want to keep that pond natural around the edge. There are kids that slip in once in a while.
And we have lead preservers available for
Yep,
that.
and this will give an easy access down there for the elderly or anybody else. I think that was Dave's idea to kind of include a little pathway down there. And it's gonna be stone, or chip stone and stuff, and,
Hopefully Afton stone, right?
well, it's gonna be a big
think that
stone with a
still-
little diamond in it, then on top of it.
We have choices and we have flexibility in that choice.
Yes.
I think it's clear what kind of hard, durable surface we're looking at, looking for.
And we worked hard with Scott on this. He couldn't mow down there in that big angle. And he wanted something flat so he could drive around there and we can take care of that slope. And by next spring, this ought to look pretty.
Commissioner Wetzel.
I just wanted to confirm that I know the Veronica Valley Committee has supported this. Has the Parks and Recreation Commission also supported it?
Yes,
So this is a recommendation from the commission too.
that is correct.
They met special last week to review this. We've been working on this for 4 years.
Commissioner Rushton.
How far from the parking lot for a person in a wheelchair to reach this new path?
100 feet.
100 feet.
I'd say it's about 100 yards.
About 100 yards or 100 feet.
Oh, I'd say 100 feet.
100 feet?
Yeah.
You say?
Yeah, it's not
Yeah,
very
it's a little
far.
farther than that. So it's not too far.
Look at
It's a
those
little rough.
towns.
It's, not a nice lawn. They can do it.
This project doesn't include the connecting pathway from the parking lot right up to the plan that's outlined and what we put out for bids. That's got to be the next step. There is a special access grant available from the Noon Hour Rotary Club in Traverse City that I learned yesterday. I was concerned, having gone over all of the application in the past week, was concerned that applying for assistance to construct that connection pathway from the parking lot to the semicircular fishing walkway that's been discussed here. I found out that yes, in fact, it will qualify. The project needs to be, our project that we've outlined here and you've approved needs to be done first before we make the application. But the application, it's a monthly decision. It's not Rotary Charities. It's a separate committee and separate set of funds. And it's something we can apply for when we're ready. And the turnaround time is quick. But that's the direction we're heading in terms of construction of the access pathway from the parking lot to the fishing pathway.
And it's less than the width of the parking lot to get to that spot.
Yeah, the photo shows it.
Yeah, there is a
Number 4.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's, yeah, roughly well, not even the length of the Mighty Mac Bridge in that neighborhood, and I don't know what that is, maybe 150 feet, maybe.
Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Aye. So the motion passes 6-1. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, so that brings us to the administration.
Last year, we didn't actually go through this process because of COVID. They are resuming in-person conferences. The board has to approve an appointment as the officer delegate. Employees have already voted for their employee delegate. So that's what this executive documentary summary addresses. Jed has historically, since he's been administrator, been the officer delegate, and Michelle is going to be the backup alternate. So,
Commissioner Wesson.
I move to recommend that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve the appointment of Administrator Chet Janik as the official delegate to attend the 75th Annual MERS Conference, and to appoint County Clerk Michelle Crocker as the alternate officer delegate at a cost of $205 per person. Funds to come from Board of Commissioners travel line item ending in 860.000, and Board of Commission education line item 960.000.
Support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0. And that brings us to Board of Commission openings.
As detailed in the board's policy on boards and commissions appointments, I'm starting the process. I issued a press release. I took notes last year about some of the alternate ways we could publicize this, and I'm in the process of doing that through libraries and public hotspots like the post office or some grocery stores. I just have to get out in the neighborhood to do that portion. It's advertised on our website, and one of the other things was to bring it up during the Board of Commissioners meeting, which I am doing today. And part of that attachment was the 4-page document that lets you know the agency that has a current roster of appointees. The ones that are highlighted have yellow means that they're expiring at the end of the year. And then there's a few others that have withdrawn and they're not going to, or they're not on the board anymore. They don't choose to run. So I think the hot thing right now is solid waste, but Trudy has some ideas on the membership for solid waste. And it has to do with the state and the approval process for the current solid waste management plan. So she'll be updating this board on the potential for maybe reducing membership.
What does the gray mean? Yeah, for like Kathy Easton?
She does not want to run
So
again.
those are
Yes.
people not really,
Right.
okay.
So,
That was the only one you didn't have in your bottom.
Well, I made the mistake of putting an email out in July saying, please let me know before October. And I should have made it just 6 weeks or something because nobody's really, there's a few diehards that definitely want to re-up, but plus it's summer, so I haven't heard back from a lot of people.
Commissioner.
So,
can we tell who of these yellowed out people can?
Yeah, I'll be letting you know when it comes to the point of your committee of the whole session, probably sometime in December, which ones have asked to be reappointed and they haven't been term limited out, and those that want to be considered even though they've had more than 3 consecutive terms. You'll be getting that all in your packet.
One thing we did talk about before is contacting the tribe somehow. I don't know if they have a way of communicating to see if we can get tribe members onto our board. So that would be something that, you know, if I don't know what source you would use to contact that, but
Try to work with your administration.
yeah, you may have them posted over there or something.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I think the board would have to agree to that, right?
It would be helpful to know which of these yellow people, it would actually be helpful to know now, but you don't know.
No, they haven't all responded,
Their
I
term
just have a
limit.
handful.
But you know if their term limit.
Yes, because they all got a separate email letting them know that their term was ending and if they were eligible for another term. And if they weren't, according to board policy, if you want to be considered and ask the board to waive their policy in consecutive terms, to let me know. I think one of the historically difficult boards to place people on is solid waste. And you'll be getting a graph on just how long people have been serving for the last 20 years and how it's cycled out. And solid waste by far, I want to say, for an example, Bill Perkins, he's been serving for decades. Yeah.
And that's just an environmental, we should be able to find someone for environmental, you know.
All right, and that was just for information. There's
Yes,
nothing-
yes.
No action we need to take.
Yep.
All right, so that would move us to the ARP fund.
I'm asking to move that forward. That is Chet's project.
All right. And then broadband. Same thing. Yes.
Yeah, I spoke with Matt last night, and he asked me to just pass along that the study is nearing completion. We should have it very shortly, and we'll have a chance to review it, and then once we're satisfied, share it with all of the ISPs and other groups that are interested in this information. So we should be looking for it soon. It's gone, I will say it's gone incredibly well. It's very complicated information. From just talking with Chris Shearer in terms of how it's going. I think we're gonna have an amazing tool to help us decide on expenditures for high-speed internet. So looking forward to it.
Did you want to move this forward to next week? in case
Yes.
the report comes?
Yes, please. I'd like to move,
Just that you can do it as an update.
Yeah.
or-
I would recommend that we move this forward to next week for any additional information on the update.
Or
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you for that. So then that gives us a review of financials. And I just had a couple of questions. One is this GEI consultant on page 4. There's like 3 different invoices. I mean, is there, it seems like we're doing, are there 3 different times they came in or for consulting?
is that one of the?
Canadian Drain Commission.
Drain-
Yeah.
So they're probably billing per
There's a lot of
district.
them.
There's a lot of
There's
districts.
a lot of doing this, and that's one of the things I was going to ask about. Some of those we're going to be reimbursed for, but possibly not all.
Really?
So you have and I have amended the 21 budget according to these invoices. I did that this past spring. We did that in the clerk's office. So one of this is South Bar Drain. The fee that was to be assessed of this project is $48,000. There's still $38,000 available for this invoice. The Lake Bluffs Drain is a $38,000 fee, $31,000 still available. Timberley Drain is $48,000 fee that's gonna be assessed, and $39,000 is available. And then the one is the general services, when Steve consults with GEI on particular, like a broad overband versus so yes, I have amended 21 to these numbers.
Yeah, and so all of these drains are going in for the most part, or?
We can certainly ask Steve for an update, but those are the projects that he has brought forward to me that he says are a go.
Okay.
And then I believe if it is a go, then the district will be reassessed.
All right. And then there's also, it seems like there's a double charge for scanning. That's at the bottom of page 4, in the top 5.
Is it claims or post audit?
I think these are claims in the county.
Claims.
Okay, do you have the vendor?
Graphic Sciences.
Okay.
It's the same, seems like it's the same bill.
Oh, I think it just carried over. I think there's just one total on top of page 5. Oh, no, you're right.
It looks like
Two
it was
separate.
two separate bills for the same thing, it looked like.
Same thing, but different amounts. 1st of July and the end of July, looks like.
Right, one quantity that came from Register of Deeds, one invoice is for 5,028, and then the other was 5,082. They both state that they are for July for underground.
So they are two
Two
different.
separate, they are,
things,
yep,
you know.
it says here, two separate.
Doesn't seem right. Okay.
Yeah, that's what Jen's turned in.
Is that every time there's a different estate settled, they send them in for scanning?
I thought we could ask Jen to update what they do for what Graphic Sciences does for them. It just states on here, duplicate cartridges and how many scanned images. And then the
It
package.
says something about microfilm.
Yeah, it's for underground.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can have her send an email to clarify,
That'd be
like
nice.
in July why there's 2.
Yes, I
Sure.
transposed the numbers. I thought it was exactly the same amount.
Yeah, because it is, if you take 5,082 and then you have 5,028.
Right.
Yeah.
Jen, I have a question on page 8. It's a subscription or a membership for Chet for MPELRA. I don't know what that is. What is that?
Do you know that one off the top of your head?
Oh, Michigan Public Relations, something. He's been a member for a number of years, and it's, from what I can gather, it's just a way of interacting with other officials within the governmental community and different things.
Michigan Public Employer Labor Relations
Yes.
Association.
Yes,
And it is electronic communications.
and I would defer to him on any questions with that, because
I just didn't know what it was, and I'm like, I don't recall. I may have seen this historically and maybe asked the same question, but thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? And then we move on to any special reports. Commissioner Wesson.
Just, and I think I mentioned last meeting, but the CEO from Northern Lakes has retired, and we have an acting CEO, and she is working with some Leelanau folks on concerns locally about children's mental health. And yesterday I did get a message from her, and she would like to meet with the chair, and maybe the chair and me, and talk through the gaps in mental health services for Leelanau County and the region. There was a special in Record Eagle this week,
Right, yeah.
and we all know there's a gap. So I will get with you and we'll get her calendar.
Yeah, and it seems to be growing much more prevalent. Commissioner Rush.
I would just like to say, or let the board be aware, a couple of weeks ago at my last airport board meeting, I'm sure it's been out there on social media, but we had a bond burning fire because we paid off our bond and the airport is now debt-free. So that's, I think we're the only airport in the country that is debt-free. So I just thought that this board would like to know that.
Commissioner Allen.
And you all may already know this, but I got Sharon Freeland sent out an email. She was very excited. They got a $50,000 gift for the laundry project from an estate, a long-time volunteer, which is wonderful. Should we say her name?
Of course.
You tell her.
Bobby and Jim Eggert. They are neighbors right next door, wonderful, wonderful couple, passed away relatively quickly in relationship to one another. But they had no children, so everything in their estate, 50% of it went to our college. And then the rest of it, they split amongst the various volunteer organizations that Bobby has participated in over the years, and this was one of them. So it was really a lovely thing.
Very nice, give to the people of the county.
Anything else? All right, so then that would bring us then to public comment.
Mr.
We
Chair,
have to-
sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to mention, and I will get this information to you, Commissioner Russian, because at our Networks Northwest meeting, they were discussing a new opioid workforce project that they have a grant for. And it's a little bit, well, it's very different. What they're doing is helping people, not just, from a social standpoint, but helping them find a job and doing all the necessary pieces to see that they're employed. So they're using coaches to help them with, life issues, and then following that person through, making sure they have the necessary training. It's kind of a unique approach to it, so.
Well, what was the name of the organization?
Networks Northwest.
Oh, okay. And it's in our community corrections department, agency, group. They kind of have the same kind of a program for some of our wayward citizens, where they provide that assistance to help find a job, get their, finances together, just get them together so they're productive in society. So that's a great thing.
Yeah, this one is specifically opioid addiction. but
Sure.
I'll get that to you. 'cause it's
Well,
nice to
sometimes you
be
find
similar.
that they go hand in hand.
Yeah, exactly. That was it.
Anyone else? All right, then, so then we move on to public comment, which I don't think we have any.
There's an email here for public comment.
Do you want to read it?
I could.
I thought they just go in the packet. I think
They do.
Yeah, be attached if they ask for it.
All right. So then that's approval of, I think we have one amendment here.
Yes.
Or transfer, I'm sorry.
I would recommend to approve fund transfer number 21-005.
Support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0.
Recommend approval of claims and accounts, $45,066.35.
Support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0.
Recommend approval of post audit, $2,084,357.43.
Support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0, and we are adjourned.